ABC Sport.
We begin this broadcast by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which this match will be played today and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples listening.
It's all on the line. Here we go.
And the moment of truth has arrived.
What a match-up this is. What a game.
The umpire holds the footy up.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else on earth.
On ABC Sport, this is the AFL.
Oh, there's a bid to get inside of the net.
The intensity and the pressure in the ball is unbelievable.
Take your moment. This is that moment of the game of footy.
This is just football at its best.
And that'll be it. From walking on thin ice to dancing on the mountaintop, the Brisbane Lions never stopped believing. And they are the champions.
Sit back, relax, witness the greatest. It don't get better than this.
He curled the thread for a magnificent goal.
Comes out, gathers, snaps, goal.
An extra bit of class.
He smashed that through. What a kick. Goes bang with everything he's got.
They are leaving nothing out there.
Listen to the roar.
The drop punt. He's gone. And the building is jumping. We know he's a big shot taker. He's a big shot maker. Leans back on the kick. Game on.
Like camera action, baby. Countdown to contact.
From the right forward on it. Oh, he's a sharpshooter, all right.
Step up in the big moment.
Points to the man on the mark. Drop punt. He's there. Gathers. Snaps. He'll bring the house down.
Sit back, relax, witness the greatest. It don't get better than this.
He'll put it on the boot. Pick up towards the logo.
You take a seat, cause it don't get better than
He
this.
defies the laws of gravity.
He runs onto it 50 from goal. He's in Dusty's pocket. He shoots. Oh, he's as bloody good as Dusty. Oh, yeah.
Rose snaps goal. The drop punt. It's good. And you can hear that mighty roar.
Walks one way and the next and the snap. There's the finish.
60 out. Oh, my goodness.
Oh.
That's a massive hit. Big time spot. Big time goal kicker.
That's why we love football. Brilliant to watch.
From the centre wicket. Whacks it for six. Scores level.
Running past. Throws it on the left. Could that be the sealer?
Seconds ticking down. We're not done yet. What a finish.
Welcome to the 2025 AFL Premiership season on ABC Sport. On radio, on digital, and on the ABC Listen app.
You take a seat, cause it don't get better than this.
Port Adelaide is standing on the edge of purgatory as we arrive in the city of churches, with the scintillating Saints eyeing a massive upset on the eve of Gather Round. The Power hoping the return of Zach Butters will be the catalyst for a resurgence, whilst the Saints will once again be tested without Jack Steele, but would feel bullish under Ross Lyon's new high-scoring game plan. It is great to have you with us for the penultimate game of Round 4. It is Port Adelaide and St Kilda on ABC Sport. There are no late changes. Joe Berry will be the sub for the Power, Angus Hasty for the Saints. So as I mentioned, Zach Butters is in for the Power. No Ivan Soldo this afternoon alongside their three changes. So Jones and Lord in, Boak and Cochrane out. And for the Saints, just the one change after their 82-point victory over the Tigers. Stocker returning from concussion and Liam O'Connell out with one. Alongside me this afternoon, Aaron Bryan's with you, by the way, is Mark Soderstrom. Soder, good to see you.
Aaron, great to be in here. Geez, you're right. It is a huge game, isn't it? Very, very exciting when you look at where Port are sitting. And the Saints, well, they get smashed by the Crows in the opening round here. A couple of good wins, and they've got a forward line coming back in form. They could be in really nice shape today.
Bit of a bogey ground for the Saints, so they've lost their last 5 here. And Port Adelaide, they've lost 14 of the last 15. But hopefully, as you've said, the past fortnight can make amends for what happened in round 1 for St Kilda.
We do know that if you're having a bad run, it's got to end sooner or later. And at this particular ground, it has been for them. So I don't know, it could be today, but they're certainly looking more potent up forward than they had, right at the start of the year. So interesting to see how they roll out.
Streaks are made to be broken. You never know. It would be a dark day for Port Adelaide if they find themselves 1-3 heading into Gather Round against the Hawks. It's a big afternoon for those at Alberton. The crowd slowly making their way in. We've still got about 45 minutes until the bounce here. We'll check in with both camps as well downstairs with Josh Money. But first, a pair of star experts across the day. It's great to welcome Port Premiership ruck Dean Brogan back to the box. Welcome, Brogues.
Great
to be back. Thanks for having me again, Aaron. G'day, Sodas, and g'day, Tomo. I stole your thunder there, Aaron. What a day for footy. Absolutely no excuse for both teams, but especially Port Adelaide. They have to win this game today. Butters back, helps them. They just can't lose today, because you lose today, you go into gather round against Hawthorn, who are the team of the AFL of 2025. Probably don't win that, and all of a sudden you're 1-4, and it's a long way back from there, Aaron.
Sydney, North and the Dogs after as well, so the next month looks very treacherous for Port Adelaide. You did steal my thunder alongside Dean Brogan, All-Australian midfielder Scott Thompson returns for the first time this year. Good to see you, Tomo.
Yes, thanks, Aaron. Great to be back, mate. And as Brogues touched on, beautiful day for footy. And g'day to you, big man, and Sodas. Great to be here, mate.
It's a big weekend for you in it as well, Brogues. You went pretty hard on Port Adelaide yesterday on SA Grandstand. For those who didn't hear it, you said it's a wasted year from what you've seen so far.
But potentially this could be a wasted year. Yeah, I did say that, and it's a wasted in the sense that there's so many variables to the succession plan and their game plan at this stage. I felt like if they did give the keys to Josh Carr last off-season, he could have got on with Josh Carr and the vision that he wants. And the first month of footy for Port Adelaide has been lacklustre, to say the least. And we all know there's a succession plan going, whether we like it or not. But I was asked my opinion, and I said I just think that Port Adelaide are wasting a year by letting this go on for 12 months. And there's just so many variables, like whose game style is it? Is it Carr's? Is it Hinkley's? Who's doing the most conversations? Who's talking to Butters and Bergman, who potentially want to leave? Who's making the changes? So there's a lot of variables, as we know, but it is what it is. But Port need to get on. There's no excuse for Port to not turn up and play like life and death footy most weeks, because we know their forward lines are work in progress. We know they've got holes in their back line, but their midfield hasn't changed. They get Butters back in today. It's an A-grade midfield, and it hasn't been to the level in the first month of the year. So if Port Adelaide are going to turn anything around and not waste a year, their midfield needs to get going, and it starts with Connor Rozee and Jason Hall-Francis.
That's the key factor, Tomo, is effort. We just haven't seen the players invested this year so far, which is odd. As Brogue said, it is a lineup that is boasting a lot of talent, and for some reason we saw it against Essendon last Thursday, round one against Collingwood. They're not really playing for their coach right now.
No, they're not. And in hindsight, would they look back and think of the timing of letting everyone know the succession plan was happening? Maybe they would change their mind of how they went about that, but it's been done now. And would we be talking the same way had Port's performances over the first 3 rounds of the season be more consistent? Potentially not, but it is what it is right now with the way they sit. And you mentioned some of the talent they have. They've got some serious top-end talent who some of them have performed really well. Horne-Francis is well down on his normal output. Rosie's first 2 games were really strong in that flogging against Collingwood as well, but down a little bit when they probably needed him against Essendon last week when the game was in the balance. And you look at Georgiades in the forward half, he's copying a full brunt of the workload up there, given their avenue to goal. As far as a key marking point in the forward half, he's a bit of a lone wolf at the moment.
Tomo, you made that point there about Connor Rozee and also Jason Horne-Francis. Horne-Francis came out early in the week and said the review from the game at Essendon was brutal, and both he and Connor Rozee were pointed out by the coach. So they would be feeling some heat, no doubt. Absolutely they would. And Rozee is the leader of the group. He needs to stand up when it counts. And we mentioned his form's been quite good up until last week, where the group was challenged against Essendon in what was a pretty ugly game of football. But when he needed to stand up, he wasn't there when they needed him. And we've touched on Horne-Francis. His normal output has been a little bit below that. And as much as he's still very young as far as his AFL career goes, he's a bloke in that team that they look to, because he's big, he's powerful, he's strong, and he can set the tone for him. And when he's down a little bit, the rest of the guys feed off that. Butters will help today, though, with that, to take that pressure off him. Absolutely, and it's great to have Zach back in the side. He's had, 5 or 6 weeks out now, so how much they lump on him in his first game back, Brogues, through the middle of the ground, I'm not sure. And as far as setting the tone, we know he'll do that. He's not big in stature as the way he's physical.
He plays with an edge, though.
Absolutely, he does.
And everyone around him plays that 10%, 15% tougher and better. And having Butters at 70% is better than not having Butters. So he's a huge in. And Rozee and Horne-Francis and even Drew, who hasn't played to the level he's played at. He normally plays a role for this midfield. The A-team's back together today. So if they're going to start getting on their way in 2025, today is the day. And Tomo, being a midfielder for so long with Adelaide, if your midfield isn't getting it done every week, that's the responsibility that you had when you played for Adelaide. That's what I had as a ruckman for Port. The midfield sets the tone for the rest of the day, the rest of the line, so your back line and your forward line. If your midfield's down, you're in a lot of trouble. So Port really need their midfielders to stand up and play to the level that they're capable of, and they're just wavering a little bit. So today's the day. It's no excuse. They've got all their big sort kind of midfielders there ready to go. So it's over to them.
I have no doubt, and we mentioned the review against Essendon just before, and those guys, the three guys especially in Rosie, Butters, Horne-Francis, and you do throw Willem Drew into that mix because he's so important. They're proud guys. So if they're serious about where this group can potentially still go this year and the belief they have within the group, there's no reason today why they don't come out, and they've got a responsibility at that first centre bounce to set the tone for the rest of the team.
If there's any side that should have excuses, it's St Kilda. They find themselves 2-1, but their injury list is massive. So Butler, Clark, Dow, Howard, Max King's a big one, Philippo, Stocker, no Jack Steele today. And still Ross Lyon has been able to make it work, and particularly up forward where, again, no Max King as your talisman is always a difficult task to overcome. And yet Ross, who is traditionally a defensive coach, Brogues, has improved their scoring from 76 points per game all the way up to 101. They mauled the Tigers by 82. And it feels like it's a new look. Ross Lyon, he's stepping into unknown territory that we've never really seen from him.
Yeah,
before.
look, they have been the surprise sort of team over the last couple of weeks, and I think towards the back end of last year, St Kilda started to play a lot quicker, and they got some scouts toward the end of the year, and they took something into the pre-season, and they are dynamic off half-back, because we know they've got, Wanganeen Malira. When the ball's in his hand, something happens, and they sweat. They're happy for you to lose the clearance and turn it over at their half-back line, and that's where they generate all their ball movement, and they're just cashing in on what they've got back there. And full credit, the modern game now is you have to score. Like, you can't play defence the whole game and hang your hat on. That's how OneWood is our defence. You have to score. You have to kick 5 goals a quarter if you want to be a serious football team. So most coaches now have changed their philosophy. Ross Lyon in particular, who's always been known as defensive coach, is they've got to open up the game a bit and break the shackles a little bit and get to work and maybe concede a couple of goals the other way, but you've got to go quick when you get the footy, and that's what they've been able to do the last few weeks. Albeit it's been in a dome, in a stadium with a roof on it. They play really well. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get it done today. Beautiful conditions against Port Adelaide, where they will turn the ball over.
Aaron, you mentioned Ross Lyon, and is he more attacking now? One thing that he hasn't changed, and he's a brilliant man in the media. During the week when he had his press conference, I was talking about Port Adelaide and said, well, look, Port Adelaide touched you up in the pre-season. And he said, yeah, we're going over there. We know what their crowd's like, but they're not the real deal. Which is brilliant, because Ross just loves stirring the pot.
He has. He's always a bit of a tongue-in-cheek sort of coach, isn't he? But what he'll do today, Tomo, and he's been... One thing Ross Lyon does is he takes something off you. He's a mastermind at taking the OneWood off the opposition, and we talk about their midfield, and he would know that Port's midfield's been down. He would want to keep that down. That'll give them a chance today. So he will come and surround the stoppage, and he'll put some time into Rosie. I would have thought they'll get into Horne-Francis, so he will come and do something and take something away off Port Adelaide.
And through that area of the ground, St Kilda have been fantastic in recent weeks. Like, Rowan Marshall's found top form, so his last fortnight have been outstanding. And then you throw in as far as senior experience, and a lot has been said around Jack McRae and the trade, and they've got him for next to nothing. Pick 45 they gave up to get Jack McRae, and his experience and leadership, and not only that, the way he's playing across the first 4 rounds of this season has been outstanding. So he's been a big tick from in the middle of the ground. Windhager's done a role for him over the course of the last couple of weeks, and he's hitting the scoreboard himself. So
yeah. He'll get Rosie today.
Well, you'd think potentially Rosie, but that's the challenge for the other two. Whoever Windhager goes to, those other Port Adelaide mids have to pick up the slack there. But St Kilda will no doubt go in the middle of the ground and meet Port head on and really back themselves in. And as well as that, you touch on their ball use. You mentioned Wanganeen Miller. He's elite with the ball in hand off that back half. And throw Jack Sinclair and Brad Hill. Yes, he can be inconsistent in patches, but they're the 3 guys with their ball use that really break the game open for St Kilda.
Thoughts of Scott Thompson and Dean Brogan, your experts this afternoon at the Adelaide Oval. Aaron Bryans and Mark Soderstrom calling the action. You can get in touch with us across the day as well on the text line 0437 774 774. We are the middle game today, sandwiched between two. So once this wraps up, we're going to get you to Perth Stadium for Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs. There's currently a game on at the moment at Giants Stadium. You can hear it through the ABC Listen app. If you're a West Coast fan, I don't think you'll want to. They've just started the second half, and the Giants lead by 51 points, 11-7-73 to the Eagles, 3-4-22. West Coast, an injured Jeremy McGovern, and then dropped Harry Edwards, so aren't playing a traditional fullback today, and Jesse Hogan has kicked 4 in the half, so you feel like it's just going to get worse and worse from here for the Eagles, who are currently down by 51 points. We'll keep you up to date with it if you are sticking with us across the day. But as I mentioned, the ABC Listen app is your option or alternative if you do want to hear it through the AFL Extra button. Port Adelaide and St Kilda here this afternoon at the Adelaide Oval. No late changes, so Joe Berry is the sub and Angus Hasty for the Saints. No Jack Steele for St Kilda, and Port Adelaide welcome back Zach Butters. About time we welcomed in the fifth member of our commentary team downstairs. Josh Money's made his way over to the St Kilda rooms, and he's with Corey Enright.
Well, thanks, Aaron, and thanks, Corey, for your time. A big opportunity, I guess, for the group to have a couple of weeks in Adelaide over Gather Round. Have you sort of identified this week or so as a real opportunity to really cement and solidify your season?
Well, obviously we're focused on today and what the challenge presents. Obviously, Port Adelaide played this ground really well, and we were here only a couple of weeks ago, and we want to play a bit better than what we did against the Crows. So, we've really focused on what we could do today.
It's amazing what a month can make in football. A month ago, pre-season, there was a bit of a golfing class, but you've started the season really well. What do you think you've changed and implemented as a side since that match?
They taught us a lesson in the pre-season game. So, we understand that what they do well when they play well, and for us, it's been about just how we want to play and be consistent in all areas, and understand that there's opposition going to throw challenges when you want to play that way, but for us it's been just about trying to build and continue to play our footy for as long as we can.
You've had a couple of great weeks. What do you think's been the key to the past fortnight?
It's probably a little bit of simplicity, really. We've had some continuity with players as well, so it's just about trying to bring effort, particularly around the footy, and that's where the games are normally won and lost, and we're trying to match the opposition, if not better the opposition there. So that's where we put a lot of our attention to try and win that footy first and foremost, and then deliver it into our forwards.
Port hasn't quite had that continuity. Can you sometimes, when you come to these often intimidating grounds, but there is that sort of tension there, can you smell that blood in the water?
I think the start of any game is important, and particularly when you're playing an interstate team on their home ground, it's going to be important that we aim to start well and give ourselves a chance early in the game.
Your skipper laid out again. How close was Jack Steele?
Yeah, it was really close. He trained with the group on the main session, and then he, as a collective, he made the call that he probably needs another week.
To have Jack McRae in that midfield and his contest work, that must be a real plus, especially with Jack out.
Yeah, he's had a really good start to the year, and obviously he's been a quality player for a long time, and he's fitted into our group really well, and just adds another dimension with his depth and experience.
How about young Anthony Caminiti, a forward for the start of his career, but is really flourishing down back where you look after him?
Yeah, he's had a promising start to his defence career, I guess. But it's nice to be able to have someone in your team that can play both ends, and good teams normally have some swingmans that can go forward and go back. So he's played a role the last 2 weeks as a key defender and done a really good job.
You have a lot of South Aussies in the squad. How much I'm looking at Harry Boyd behind me now. How much are they enjoying the opportunity to be home for a bit longer? Yeah,
well, it's a unique opportunity, isn't it? We played here round one, we play here today, and obviously next week as well. So no doubt that if they're focused on what we need to do on game day, but it's an opportunity for those guys to, I guess, reconnect with some family and friends.
Do you have to put a tracker on Nazar Wanganeen-Milera's leg and make sure he doesn't go to any of the clubs?
No, not at all. We'll keep a watch on him, but we just want him to enjoy his footy and continue his good form.
We know tagging's back in vogue, and it's something the Saints have done for a while. With Zach Butters back into this team, can you give us any insight into who you might lock down today?
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? They've got some huge magnets there. Obviously Butters, Rosie, Horn Francis. I just see Willie Reilly coming out to the ground now as well. So they've got some star quality players, and it's going to be a team effort. We know that. So Windhager will go to someone, but we need to help him, and we need to help the rest of the team to get the job done.
No hints there. Thanks for your time, Corey.
No worries. Thank you.
I do not envy the head of game plan, Corey Enright. Great to have him downstairs with Josh Money. It's a tough task. You've got the returning Zach Butters playing his first game of the season. He's always prolific and was up there in the Brownlow medal last year, a dual best and fairest winner and All-Australian as well. Connor Rosie, though, got exposed last week, just the 2 touches at quarter time when he was tagged, and ultimately 8.5. He fired late, but it certainly set the tone for the game, and Jason Horne-Francis can be as damaging up forwards. So St Kilda have a fair few choices if they do want to tag with Marcus Windhager today, and might have to rotate depending on how the game does play out. Love that cheeky question from Josh Brogues as well about Messiah Wanganeen-Millera. You've got 2 guys today, Zach Butters, who's out of contract next year but drawing a lot of interest from Victorian clubs, and Wanganeen-Millera, who's a local boy, and both Port Adelaide and the Crows are keen to get him. What is it like when you've got St Kilda staying in this town for a week before gather round and the players are available to be spoken to? Do you think Ross would address that internally?
Oh, probably not. I think Ross came out and actually said he'd be surprised if Port and Adelaide didn't try and catch up with him, and it's the norm now, isn't it? We saw Oscar Allen, the captain of West Coast, catching up with Sam Mitchell. Like, for us older generation players, we find it a bit strange, but it is the modern, it's the way they do business now, and that's what happens when you open up free agency. Players will shop themselves around, and it doesn't mean that they're not loyal to their footy club on the weekends and through the week, but it just means that it's okay to catch up with opposition now. So does.
Broach, you went to GWS, obviously, after your time at Port, and Tomo, we know you went from the D's to the Crows. Were there any secret meetings that you blokes had to be involved in over the years with other clubs?
It was just very different back then. Like, we have to accept that the way it is now is the norm, but that was end of 04. I came from Melbourne back to the Crows, and it was literally conversation. Yes, I stayed in contact with a point of contact at the Crows, but it was nothing like what you hear now. Although I did hear, this is going back a little while, that Rory Sloane came out the other day and said he had conversations with some Victorian teams through a burner app. Was it St Kilda?
On Instagram.
It might have been St Kilda.
Yeah.
It was St Kilda through a burner.
Wow.
Conversation on Instagram, which blows your mind to a certain extent.
And so does, I was never that good. The Giants, I was pick 99 from the Giants in the old person's draft after I retired 3 times at Port Adelaide. So
worth your weight in gold, Brogues. Worth your weight in gold, mate.
Tomo, there is no doubt that the power came knocking for you at some point. There had to have been, because you are a Port Adelaide boy from a young man.
Yeah, I was a mad Port supporter as a kid, went through their juniors, but it's funny, actually. It wasn't until Josh Carr, after Port won the grand final in 04, that Carey decided to go back to Freo, and that was when Port Adelaide got in contact with me. So I had a long conversation with Mark Williams, but by that point, talk with the Crows was well underway, and it was pretty much a done deal by that point, and it unfolded the way it did.
There's some great audio online if you haven't heard it either on the ABC Sports socials. Peter Bell on Sports Talk yesterday. He was the former head of football at Fremantle and revealed how they used to do it, which was basically they'd book a hotel room and everyone had to come at different times across the day and get a key from reception, slowly meet, and then slowly exit at different times and hope that no one would piece it together.
That sounds a bit dodgy.
It's
that one
very odd.
I'd be concerned about burner phones too, because a lot of times they haven't been used for recruiting purposes. Get rid of the boys.
Yes.
But it's getting more and more like the big professional sports around the world. That's how it happens in the NBA, the NFL, and AFL. It's the biggest sport in Australia, so it's been going on for a very long time, but now they're just a bit more open about it, really, and it is what it is. You know, I'd be shocked if Port didn't catch up with Messiah Wanganeen-Millera. I'd be catching up with him every day.
Do you like the idea of them staying the week between now and gather round? Because they don't play till Sunday against the Giants.
Yeah, I think a lot of clubs are doing that. I know West Coast fly in tonight. I know the Giants are staying when they play here, and they play Adelaide the week after, they're staying the week. I think it's a good chance for the teams to get away, especially the Melbourne teams that don't travel that much. Get away and be with your team and do some things through the week. It's a long year, as we know. And why wouldn't you come to Adelaide for a week, Tomo? You got the best beaches, the best wines, the best restaurants. Not that the players will be drinking too much, but I'm sure the officials and the coaches will.
It's a beautiful part of Australia, Brogues, and I think in recent years with Gather Round being the way it is, I think people are starting to see that actually South Australia isn't a bad place to visit sodas.
Absolutely. It's a brilliant place, isn't it? I reckon.
Unfortunately, it's out. Yeah.
Well, you find all the guys that perhaps have come from Victoria or have even gone over there for a significant period. I reckon once you get used to the lifestyle here, it's very, very hard to go back because it is such a relaxed, and as guys start having families and kids and all those sorts of things, it is such a wonderful place to be. And I reckon in the last 20 years, South Australia's lost its inferiority complex against the eastern states, and it feels like South Australia, a bit like Perth's always been because of the geographical distance, South Australia's really embracing what it is as itself, and it's making Crows, it's making Port really attractive.
Exactly. The last... You're right. Adelaide and Port haven't missed over the last 5 years, especially Adelaide, the way they've recruited. Like, that used to be the hardest thing, is trying to get players even back here for Adelaide people, but that doesn't seem to be a problem now, and it's because the landscape's changed now, and Adelaide have done a fantastic job. Port in the past, they're back into retooling and recruiting probably as we speak, but they've done a really good job over the last 5 or 6 years. So both clubs have cashed in on getting players back. It's not a hard conversation anymore.
Is an awkward spot for Port Adelaide to be in right now at 1 and 2. They don't have a first round pick next year. They've already given that away. Miles Bergman might be heading out the door, so they want to get Wanganeen Miller in. There's a lot of moving parts for a club that feels a little bit stuck in limbo right now as they try and get their season back on track against the Saints this afternoon. They've got to sort out their coaching succession plan as well. A lot of moving parts. Let's find out how they're feeling in the build-up. Josh Money's made his way over to the Port race. He's downstairs with their assistant coach, Chad Corns.
Thanks, Aaron. Chad, thanks for your time. How have you viewed the last week or so? A lot of heat and pressure and scrutiny on your club, but what sort of response are we expecting today?
Hopefully it's going to be a good one. It's been a good week of training, a longer week. So the boys have recovered well, trained well. We'll see what happens, but the feeling is good.
One of the key words coming out of that review from a couple of your players and coaches was a lack of effort in that fourth quarter. How do you train effort?
But it was a good review, and when you watch it back, it's like clear, like certain moments where we all could have gone a bit harder at certain times. We did a bit more competitive stuff as a whole team. The forwards and backs went at it pretty hard, as did the mid, so that's obviously the best way to train it. Review it early and then go out and train it, and like I said, it had been a good week of training.
When you started the season looking after the forwards, you probably didn't think in round 4 you'd be without Todd Marshall and Jack Lacochis. How big has that logistical challenge been for you?
Yeah, it's not ideal, but every team has injuries. They're two pretty important pieces that we sort of built around early in the pre-season, and they were training well together. But Ollie Lord will come in today. The boys really love playing with him, competitive, tough, and that's what we have lacked a little bit. Another tool to help out Mitch over these first 3 rounds, so we're pretty excited about him coming in.
Are you confident it's going to happen for Ollie? I feel like we've spoken him up a lot for a couple of pre-seasons now. What does he need to take the next step and really cement himself in this side?
He just needs a good run at it. Like, he's had little interruptions through injury, through form, but he's got the foundation to be a really good key forward. When you build your game off competitiveness, toughness, he really gets outmarked, so hopefully the other stuff can grow in his game.
How close was Travis Boak to playing today? He's getting on a bit, the 36-year-old?
Yeah, well, he's very old. And to do what he's still doing, I still think he's covering the ground really well, but he was pretty sore after last week. So we feel the best call was to give him a week off.
And the challenge of the Saints, how much do you think they've changed since that pre-season match where you really taught them a lesson?
Yeah, I think that was a bit of an outlier for them. Their recent form, the back end of last year, what they've done since then, isn't what we won't expect that pre-season game. They defend really well. They're tough around the contest. So, yeah, our boys have to be on.
It seems crazy to even ask you how much you miss Zach Butters, because everyone and every club would miss a player like that. But how much have you missed Zach Butters?
Oh, it's great. Even this week, having him doing full training, even at training, he's just so competitive. So to bring him in just gives everyone a real boost.
Do you think as well, I know Kenny singled out Connor and Jason last week for their effort as well. How much will they enjoy having another superstar in that mix as well?
Yeah, well, they love working together, along with all the other guys in the midfield, but those guys have got a pretty good understanding of how each other play and how they complement each other. So, yeah, like we said, bringing Butsy back in does give everyone a real lift.
You assume that Marcus Windhager will go to one of those 3 boys.
Yep.
What's the challenge for that midfield group when that happens? How do they support the player being tagged?
Yeah, I think we can do a better job supporting that guy. Last week we didn't do it anywhere near well enough. So that's something we spoke about. And when one of those gun midfielders do get tagged, we expect that he'll get helped out a lot more than he was last week.
I know it's 1 week at a time, but with Gather Round coming up and the whole nation will be looking at South Australia and looking at Port, and it's a big game next week as well. Does today count towards next week in any way? Do you want to really head into Gather Round with your tails up?
Yeah, it'd be nice. The next month, not only Gather Round, the next month is really challenging. So, we've spoken about that as well, but today is the first step of that. You can't look past today. If you do that, take your eye off the ball and the result won't be the way we want. So the full focus is today with, some excitement around what next week looks like.
Thanks, Chad. Good luck today.
Thank you.
They cannot afford a mental slip this afternoon against the Saints. Port Adelaide sitting at 1-2 after a 12-point loss to the Bombers. Aaron Bryans, Mark Soderstrom, Dean Brogan, Scott Thompson with you on ABC Sport today. It was a dispirited loss to the Bombers on Thursday night, you could argue. Being outworked a fair bit. Port Adelaide, 92 contested possessions is the lowest by any team since 2014. Their pressure factor in the second term was the lowest for the club ever. 16th in the comp for contested possession differential, which is just odd numbers, Brogues, from a side that usually is so tough and physical, seem to be happy to let sides move the ball comfortably around them.
Yeah, look, it's something they've been able to hang their hat on. Is most weeks Port Adelaide do turn up in that space, and it just hasn't. The eye tells you a lot when you watch Port Adelaide play. Your eye tells you when you watch any football team, especially when you're aligned to that football team. The eyes tell you that there's just they're 20% off, and being 20% off in this brutal AFL season, you're going to get done and you're going to stand out. And they're, even against Richmond in the second half, Richmond, that should have been a 100-point win, really, and they just haven't been able to have that play with that edge, and it's got to start. It has to start sooner or later, or the season's gone. And it's like anything. Football hasn't changed in 100 years, Tomo. If you can't bring your pressure and energy in contest, you're going to get done. And it doesn't matter about your back line and your forward line, your midfield contest, and how you go in that contest. It's everything, and they just haven't had it.
Absolutely, and Port in recent years have built their game on forward pressure and forward half turnover to lock the ball in their forward half and just continually build pressure on the opposition. And again, that hasn't been the case throughout the first 3 rounds of this week. And then you listen to the interview just before with Chad Corns, where he's talking about the fact that they go to training and they bash into each other and try and build that competitive spirit again 3 games into the season. That's slightly concerning.
That's
for me.
a concern.
Yeah.
It's a concern. But what you want to see is you want to see Pep. You want to see Ollie Wines. Butters is back in the side. You need to see Horn Francis. They can be vicious players when they want to be, but we just haven't seen it. Like, for Pep to get back into form, that's when he's playing his best footy, when he's running through opposition, he's attacking the player and the ball. Same with Horn Francis. They tackle and they play the man and the ball really with ferocity. We just haven't seen it. And I know back when my game wasn't going well, Tomo, as a ruckman, I just concentrated on being super aggressive and the rest would take care of itself. I think they need to get back to that and not worry about how many possessions they're going. If they're going to win or lose, they just need to get back to being super aggressive and playing with that chip on their shoulder, and playing with anger. We just haven't seen it. And being 1-2 and potentially going 1-3 and all the stuff that everybody's talking about, that's enough to make you angry.
Absolutely.
So, it's got to have to see it today. Have to see it, because St Kilda, they'll be there. They'll be around the mark today. So if they don't bring it and they get done by St Kilda today, I don't want to be there. What are you going to do then? Are they going to pull out more contested ball bags? And it's just
Tell you what, it might be a bit superficial, but maybe one way to change your attitude is to wind the clock back and don a retro strip from 20 years ago.
I love this Guernsey.
Bringing out the old spilt milk Lightning Bolt Guernsey. It's great to see that retro kit back out. So predominantly teal. It's got the white lining from it if you haven't seen it. The black triangles in the background. But yeah, maybe that's a way to spark them up, Brogues, is to reignite that passion from the early 2000s.
Well, I hope so. You can see that. I can listen to Toby Thurston's talk on the ground now. But who played in that era with that Lightning Bolt Guernsey? But yeah, I do love it, that Guernsey. But I think the gimmicks are out now. Like if you're worrying on Guernseys and what you're doing
Not
at
gonna be
training during the week, I don't think it'll be enough, Aaron, but it does look good.
Absolutely. Seen Brogues go for a couple of jogs around that Unley area, still wearing that jumper in the afternoon. So if you are driving around Adelaide and you're over for gather round from Victoria, make sure if you are south of the city, look out for Dean Brogan in that Lightning Bolt jumper, normally about 5:30 at night, getting ready for his runs.
He's normally oiled up too, Sanders.
That was you.
Oh, no.
Sorry, that was you. You used to get the oil.
Well, if you are over here for gather round, Tom will be running with the shirt off the whole time. If you're,
I thought he was doing curls. While we're on gather round, shout out to the Traralgon Tiger who's texted in on 0437 774 774. Says, "G'day team, I'm driving to Adelaide on Friday for gather round. Can't wait. Attending for the second time and would highly recommend it to anyone." Considering in 2026, off to Linddock on Sunday for the Tigers this year, and thoroughly enjoyed Norwood's Food and Wine Festival last season. So enjoy it, the Traralgon Tiger. It was great last year. Glad you enjoyed it, and I'm sure it's going to be bigger and better at the Barossa. There is a game on at the moment over at Giants Stadium. You can hear it on the ABC Listen app if you want to tune in. The Giants and the Eagles. GWS leading by 54 points heading towards three-quarter time. 13-11, 89 to 5-5, 35. Hogan's got 5 goals now in the absence of a traditional fullback for the Eagles. Toby Green's got 3 goals as well. So the Giants feasting on a younger West Coast side will match up against Carlton here as part of gather round at the Adelaide Oval on Saturday. Big game for both clubs. You think West Coast might potentially be looking at an upset on the road to hand Carlton their 5th loss of the season. Their Saints making their way out onto the Adelaide Oval. They've got Port Adelaide this afternoon, the penultimate game of round 4. 2-1 the Saints, 7-point win over Geelong a couple of weeks ago, an 82-point win over Richmond, but that round 1 thrashing at the hands of Adelaide has left some scars at this venue that they haven't won at since 2022. They're in their hot cross bun Guernsey, so predominantly bright red background, the black cross and a little bit of a white V underneath the bottom. For the Saints this afternoon, just the one change for them. So Liam Stocker in for Liam O'Connell and no Jack Steele, as we've touched on through the build-up. Big game for them as they continue to build on the momentum of Ross Lyon, who just looks refreshed as they play a bit more attacking football and high scoring. Last week was actually the 14th time in his 350-plus games that they've scored 20 goals in a contest. So I think he's starting to, experience a new way of playing football, Ross Lyon, and it seems to be shining for them at the moment.
Well, you just have to. You have to adapt to where the game is heading, and clubs always focus on the premiers, but the last few years you've got to move the ball quick. And I was just saying to you, Tomo, and you guys offline that, and I've been big on this. The first team to 100 normally always wins, and that is so prevalent in the modern game today. You've got to move the ball so quick and you've got to score. Like, watching Gold Coast and Adelaide yesterday, that was one of the toughest games you'll see in a while, and it was all defence, and but they still scored 90-odd points, which is close to 100. So even in a really contested sort of environment and hot, conditions, they were still able to get close to 100. So that is the modern game, and St Kilda are really playing that way.
That halfback frenzy you touched on as well. So Wangan Miller, Jack Sinclair, I think they had 19 score involvements together last week. Sinclair has a career-high 40 touches. They've got so much flow. And Port Adelaide's forward line's a little bit rusty, Brogues. If their entries are poor, it's pretty quick to transition the other way.
Well, it is, and it's a forward line. Port's forward line's a work in progress, as we know. There's a lot of new faces down there, and it'd be interesting to see what Port do. Like, do they do a job on Wangan and Malera? Like, they've got to take something off St Kilda, because if you let those guys go, Tomo, to their own devices, they'll cut them up.
They certainly will cut them up, Brogues, and we mentioned the guys before with Sinclair, Hill. Brad Hill's an interesting one for me. He's such a beautiful ball user, but he's just inconsistent at times. But he's a barometer for St Kilda. So when he's up and going as well, we speak about the ball use and add Wanganeen Miller in that mix, as well as Jack Sinclair. They're as good as any in the competition at cutting teams apart. And that's been the luxury they've probably had with bringing Jack McCrane to the team as well, that he now can win it on the inside and help feed these guys on the outside. So huge challenge for Port Adelaide in their front half to try and put either a defensive forward on Wanganeen Miller potentially, or how do we lock the ball in their forward half without just genuine forward pressure.
The Power making their way out onto the Adelaide Oval. 1-2 to start their 2025 campaign last week. A 12-point loss to the Bombers. It is Esava Radagalia's 100th game as well today. Traditionally Esava Ratanolea, Fijian heritage, both of his parents, but born here in Griffith, New South Wales. Got into footy at a very young age. Has been shining ever since. 75 games for the Cats and now 25 at Port Adelaide. Had the meniscus injury in the pre-season, so only returned last week. It was a slow game for him. Let's see if he can build into it this afternoon down back for Port Adelaide. In the retro strip, as we touched on, from the 2004 pre-season Cup, and also 2006 as the Clash strip. So very teal, got the lightning strike down the middle of it. One of the greater retro Guernseys around. I reckon they put it back up for sale through the week and sold a fair few, so that's handy for the club to inject some cash in as well. No late changes for Port Adelaide. Joe Berry's going to be their sub. No Travis Boak this afternoon. It's a little bit of a shame given he was about to become a top 10 player in the AFL VFL history books for games played. We'll still get it next week when he plays Hawthorn, tying himself with Craig Bradley. But he won't be there this afternoon, neither will Ivan Solder or Tommy Cochran. A bit unfortunate for him. He came on as the sub, got about 10 minutes of game time and has been omitted. Bit of a shame.
It was a tough game to come in on, wasn't it? But he showed something, and by all reports, he's going to be there for a while.
Yeah, Brogues. Tommy Cochran got a chance to watch him play at Unley Oval against Sturt yesterday. He was Port's best player in that loss to Sturt. He kicked 4, and he looked very, very good. And Rory Atkins was popping around a little bit too. Obviously, he's come over from the Suns. But it was really great to see Cochran step up after the disappointment.
And that's what you need. A young kid comes in for 10, 15 minutes and then gets put back to the 2, so to speak, it's NFL, and he's got on with it. He's rocked up and he's best player on the ground. From a coaching staff point of view, that's exactly what you want to see, and it puts pressure on the players that they've brought in today to perform. Otherwise, young kid like Cochran's ready to go again.
So the ins for Port Adelaide, Lockie Jones, Zach Butters in for his first game of the season. He just copped a knee knock during training in the pre-season. He played against St Kilda, pulled up okay, and then at training just copped an odd knock. Went to bed, woke up the next day and his knee was double the size. Had to go get some tests done. They found a loose body, and surgery resulted in him missing 6 weeks of their program, and now he gets out there for his first game of the season. So big inclusion for Port Adelaide. And Ollie Lord playing his first game of the season. Surprisingly, I think was touted as the next big thing with Charlie Dixon departing, and all we'd kind of heard in the build-up from assistant coaches was that he just didn't have a great pre-season. He wasn't banging the door down, so had to fight his way over the last couple of weeks back into the 22.
Yeah, well, it's exactly right. The young kid, he kicked 5 on Harris Andrews 2 years ago in a final, and we're thinking, wow, this kid he's going to be the next Charlie Dixon. Unfortunately, through injury and for whatever other reason, he just hasn't been able to get a good run in it. But the small snippets we've seen since that game, he does show a little bit, and he's going to take a bit of time. As we know, big fellas do take a bit of time. But just play him. They need him. They need another tool alongside Mitch. Whether he plays well or not, put him in there for 5-6 weeks and just see how it goes. Because as we know, when a young kid's trying to find their way, continuity is the best way to get them into, especially tools. You've got to give them a month. So we'll just see how it goes. But Port definitely need that extra tool to take some pressure off Mitch Georgiadis, and he does have it when, kicking 5 against Harris Andrews, one of the greatest defenders of all time, really, in a final. So it tells you a bit about the kid. They love his competitive. He does compete really well. And, we talk about Port's contest work, bringing in a tool that's going to compete. You couldn't ask for anything better. But will they play him in the ruck? Are we going to see him pinch it in the ruck, or are they still going to persist with Ollie Wines? So I'd love to see Lord get in the ruck, a bit like Tilthorpe yesterday. Just frees them up, gets them in, get some contests, clearances, and then they go back forward and they're in the game. So hopefully we get to see him back up in the ruck.
You wonder if the Saints missed a trick there. No Harry Boyd this afternoon, the local boy who looked good round 1 against the Crows, and Isaac Keeler's another. He's out of North Adelaide. Has been doing a little bit of the pinch hitting. It's really just Rowan Marshall and Jordan Sweet today, isn't it, Tomo?
Yeah, it looks to be that way. And watching him warm up now, it's Jordan Sweet only in there doing the bulk of the ruck work. And we touched on earlier with Rowan Marshall and the form he's in. He's in outstanding nick. So it's a huge challenge for Jordan Sweet if they go head-to-head through the middle of the ground. Whether they do throw Ollie in there in patches for just a little 5-minute stint, if he's not in the game in that forward half, we may see that. But a huge challenge through the middle of the ground with Jordan Sweet and Rowan Marshall going head-to-head today.
Three-quarter time at Giant Stadium. GWS leading by 52 points there. You can hear it on the ABC Listen app through the AFL Extra button. We'll also take you to Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs following this contest around 4:30 Eastern Daylight Time that starts. So if you find yourself at around half-time thinking you want to hear the other game, go for it. The ABC Listen app is your home of every game this season through the AFL and AFL Extra buttons. At the Giants game as well over West Coast, Jesse Hogan has 6 goals now. Toby Green with 3, Darcy Jones with 2. And leading possession getters there, Whitfield has 26 alongside Lockie Ash, and Josh Kelly has 25. 0437 774 774 is the text line. Shout out to Edward in Wagga Wagga who's enjoying the coverage. And do leave your name when you do text in as well. We've had a couple come through that are unattributed. So do get in touch with us, 0437 774 774. Aaron Bryans, Mark Soderstrom calling the action this afternoon. Dean Brogan, Scott Thompson, your experts, and Josh Money downstairs will check in with in a moment's time. Brogues, Tomo, who wins and why? How does it play out today?
I think Port win. A lot of heat on them during the week. I think they'll turn up today and play well.
Great question, mate. Port you'd say have got more to play for. Going 1-3 is a long way back, but St Kilda at the moment, they're up and about. I can actually see them getting it done through the middle of the ground today and then coming away with the 4 points.
So you're saying McRae, Garcia, Windhager can beat Rosie Butters, Horn Francis today?
That's what I'm saying, yes.
It's a big call, but I kind of back you. Like, McRae's had a great year. He's first for contested possessions, which is where Port Adelaide are falling over, averaging over 30 touches a game. And Hugo Garcia really shined last week in the absence of Jack Steele. You never know.
And what they'll do is they'll have a plan for the midfield. They'll play back shoulder on Port. They'll make it a really high contest around the footy today, Tomo. They might bring an extra up that sits on the shoulder. They'll make it really dirty ball for Port Adelaide's mids.
Brokes, just on that, we were talking about that midfield of St Kilda's. Can it really encompass that Port Adelaide one? Both of you guys, who would you go with Windhager? Who would you put him on?
You go to Rosie. He's the form. From a statistical point of view, he's Port Adelaide's best midfielder at the moment. You go to him because we saw a bit of a blueprint last week that if you take Rosie out, that midfield's gone. Butters has missed so much time, and Horn Francis isn't in the greatest of form, and he doesn't get 30 possessions. So I don't know, Tomo, it's your space, really.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you, Brogues. Rosie can cut you apart, and he is a ball winner. We see he can get high numbers. Horn Francis has got that explosive power, but he does just still at the moment probably doesn't generate enough ball. But when he does, he can impact. But, touching on before, I see St Kilda going head-to-head. They may try and go with one of them, but when they match him on the inside, so does I see St Kilda's ball use and watching him in recent weeks. They've got that dare. They're going to make Port Adelaide have to defend well today. Otherwise, they will just cut them apart around the ground.
And it's a really good point, Tomo. Port Adelaide's midfield are known not to run the other way. So Ross, St Kilda would have shown all the vision of their mids not running defensively. And that's where the ball use and their mids, if they can get, like you said, Tomo, if they can compete on the contest and it gets in St Kilda's, the prime movers with the footy, they'll cut them open because Port don't run the other way that well.
A lot of love for St Kilda on the text line. Anthony says the Saints will win and win well. Sean and Nico on the road from Adelaide say a big stage for St Kilda to add to Port Adelaide's woes, particularly in their great new jumpers. Good crowd in attendance here as well. I thought with Port Adelaide's form and the Sunday afternoon that it might be a little lacklustre. It's not too bad. Upper tiers a little patchy, but Hills looking good. Middle and lower tiers starting to fill out as well. We're about a couple of minutes away from bounce down here at Adelaide Oval. Great to have you with us as part of ABC Sport for Port Adelaide and St Kilda, the penultimate game of round 4. And still to come, Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs from 4:30 Eastern Daylight Time. Toss has just occurred in the middle. Let's head downstairs for the result with Josh Money. Good afternoon, Josh.
Good afternoon, Aaron. Thank you very much. Connor Rosie has won the toss, the first win of the day for Port Adelaide. First of many, I'm sure Connor hopes they will be kicking to the southern end of the ground in this first quarter. And it is absolutely beautiful conditions for football. 21 degrees, barely a breeze to speak of. And certainly the crowd, as you just touched on, is not too bad at all for a Sunday afternoon. A lot of the Port Adelaide faithful here have run straight to the merchandise store down at Alberton and picked up one of these very nice looking retro jumpers, and wouldn't these fans be hoping that they can channel a bit of that 2004 Dean Brogan energy today. Let's have a quick look at the benches as the club anthem starts echoing throughout Adelaide Oval. Zach Jones, Lance Collard, Liam Stocker and Max Hall start on the bench for St Kilda. Angus Hasty is their sub. Lockie Jones, Jackson Mead, Joe Richard and Christian Moraes, who had a bit of a knee-on-knee knock at training during the week, trained well on Thursday, but that's just one to watch in this first quarter today. And for the very first time in his career, Joe Berry is the sub.
Bit of biff early as well, so Jack McRae's got stuck into Zach Butters and Jordan Sweet has come over to defend him. Big Rucks Brogues in the lightning strip. You love to see it.
And, you know, no doubt Butters has instigated this, and it's just, this is what they've missed.
His bank balance is probably better for the fact he didn't play the first month of footy.
He's up there with Toby Green, isn't he, with fines?
He'll get a couple, I reckon, this game. Port Adelaide and St Kilda at the Adelaide Oval to continue round 4. Great to have you with us for it. Dean Brogan and Scott Thompson, your experts. Aaron Bryans to call the action. And alongside me to get us going is Mark Soderstrom.
Well, the Saints in good form. Had the win over Richmond, had the win over Geelong. McRae is going head-to-head with Horn Francis at this point. And we've got Rowan Marshall up against Jordan Sweet. The bounce here on a beautiful Adelaide Oval is underway. They essentially negate each other. Butters back into the side, gets his first hand on the ball. Kick off the deck for the Saints to go forward. They go into the attacking 50. It's a high ball. Alir at the back. And the umpire has found a free kick. It's going to go the Saints' way. Mitch Owens was manhandled by Alir, and he's going to get a chance here. Essentially 20 out, 45-degree angle.
Well, it just started from centre bounce. It was a scrappy kick, soccer off the ground, and got inside 50 quickly and puts the Port Adelaide defenders under pressure from the first 2 minutes of the game.
Absolutely, and it came from pressure from the big man, Rowan Marshall, with the tackle on Butters. Real aggression behind it.
Well, Mitch Owens has been in pretty good touch to start the year. He bagged a couple last week and lost the opportunity there just to put some pressure on.
Got to kick them when you're on the road. You haven't won at this ground for a very long time.
Minor score to start the game in the opening minute. St Kilda up by a point. Interesting that Horn Francis, Butters and Rosie started the centre bounce together. The three-headed dragon that we rarely see combined together. Port Adelaide's pulled the trigger. They look to exit. Bergman speared it towards Palpepper. He fumbled, slipped through his mitts. Wanganeen Miller goes for home off a step from 50 and misses to the right-hand side. St Kilda 2 behinds. Port yet to score. Sunday afternoon footy on ABC Sport.
Windhager straight to Rosie, boys, so keep an eye on that one.
Well done, Scott Thompson, Dean Brogan. Our experts tipped that one. Rosie, of course, was down on his luck last week with 22 touches only after hitting 30s in his first 2 games. Here's Kane Farrell. He's going for the kick out in the left foot. We know that trusty boot. He's missed his target. Coming out at half-back, and the ball is going to be thrown up here just inside the defensive square, and Kane Farrell has just picked up a nice 5-year deal, so he'd be feeling on top of the world at the moment.
Saints by 2. Marshall wins it down. Sweet gets a paddle out, only found Sinclair. Hooks it around the body off a step towards the 50. Underneath it is Keeler. Fist came in from Jones for the power. It trickles its way towards the eastern wing and rolls out in front of the Odie stand for a boundary throw-in. Sue in Hobart says, this is definitely what we wanted to see from the Saints. Big effort early.
We talk about creating, we talked about St Kilda putting numbers around the stoppage. We see Higgins, who's playing as a forward, come straight up into the stoppage to surround it.
Sweet down, it bounced past Windhager. Garcia tries to wrench it out of there, stripped away by Butters. Half volley for the Saints into the 50. Farrell's waiting, and just to reel it in with the outstretched arm. Bangs it back towards the logo on the outer side. Buffeted away from the drop. Lord is pushed off. Sinclair with the diving handball did well. Gets it to Burns for the Saints. Garcia loops it over the top to Marshall. Crunching tackle from Horn Francis. Ball shoots out Port Adelaide's way. Pepper races to half forward. Little 1-2 as he combines with Wines. Heads for home from 45. And it rolls through over the behind line. Desperate backtracking from Georgiades, who had so much momentum. He's flung himself into the front row. But it is a minor score for Port, who are down by 1. They'll get it back immediately.
Well, and Drew gets the intercept. He's right on the attacking 50. Port Adelaide going to the southern end, the river end here at Adelaide Oval. And Drew with an opportunity, just lowers the eyes. The lead is on the mark. Couldn't be taken by Pepper. St Kilda's defence, kick high, long and out of bounds on the full. So Port Adelaide will get the chance just to pop things in again. It was Burns' kick that went awry. And now Willie Rioli, just where the 50 line meets the boundary. Members side here at Adelaide Oval. He lowers the eyes, drops a little kick in. It's perfect.
Smart kick.
Very, very good indeed. And here's Horn Francis from 40.
Just loose checking from St Kilda there. Rioli was never going to have a shot from 40 out on the boundary, or 45 even, and great synergy between Horn Francis and Rioli. Just popped it up, and geez, there's a lot of intensity from both teams at the start. I like the feel of this.
And a 50.
That's going to be up against St Kilda there, and it's on now. They've all run in there.
Look at this.
Old school. The Dean Brogan jumper is on. The lightning bolt jumper that Port have had.
Just caught a bit of feeling, and this is what happens. Both teams are really into it.
Give you one tip, Brogues. Who do you think started it?
Butters.
It was Zach Butters and Hugo Garcia.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Both teams are really come ready to play today, and this is what you want to see.
Well, all the hijinks was going on between the two sides. Jason Horn Francis in the square has popped through the goal for Port Adelaide, so they have the first to start things here. 1-1-7 leads St Kilda by 2 behind. You wanted to see some action, boys, and that's what you got from Port.
Yeah, we've got it early, and you love to see it. And, you know, Horn Francis gets the reward with the goal there with some great connection with Rioli, but you go back 2 minutes. Horn Francis was the one that laid that massive tackle in the middle of the ground and created that forward half turnover, which enabled Port to get the ball in their forward half in the first place.
Bit of feeling early at the Adelaide Oval. St Kilda's hot start quickly muted. Port up by 5. 1-1-7 plays 2 behinds. Sunday afternoon footy on ABC Sport. Ken Hinkie on the boundary just ruffles the hair of Zach Butters after that effort. Play to continue with Ollie Wines now at the centre bounce. Awkward one that goes outside the circle but not recalled. Sweep down, only found Windhager. Bouncing ball towards the attacking edge of the square, and Logan Evans cuts it off for the power. Quickly wrapped up. We'll get a ball up. Beautiful sunshine here in Adelaide. Not too hot though. Sweet taps it down the throat of McRae, who fumbled. Has to dive into the footy. Tackles Sweet. Wrenching it out. Windhager looks to be the bull barging through. Managed to get a handball to Marshall, who heaves it towards the 50. Back at the flight. Keeler couldn't take it. Radaglia brings it to ground. He'll get another bite. Tackled, stripped. Brought down Bergman. Ripped away. Owens a couple of side steps. Low snap from 30. Mitch Owens gets St Kilda on the board. They're up 1-2-8 to Port Adelaide's 1-1-7. We've played 6 minutes in the opening term here at the Adelaide Oval. Sunday afternoon footy on ABC Sport.
Well, we've talked about the midfield battle all pre-game, and the first 6-7 minutes, St Kilda clearances 5-zip. St Kilda contested possession 9-3. Granville gets 8-2. They are all midfield stats pretty 80% of the time, and they are absolutely torching Port Adelaide at the start of this game. So if Port don't get going in this area, it could be a long day for them, Tomo.
Certainly will be, Brogues. We spoke about it before. It's a key stat that sets up Port Adelaide's game, and they are getting pantsed in that space at the moment.
Scott Thompson and Dean Brogan, our experts today. As you heard, 5-zip is the clearance rate at the moment in favour of the Saints. It's Sweet and Marshall again in the centre of the ground. Beautiful bounce by the umpire. Both of them cancel each other out of game, but the free kick is going to go to Sweet. Gives it off to Rosie. Oh, his kick smothered. Marshall did well. Gives it to McRae, whose first 3 games are 100 possessions total. Trevelyan on debut last week, playing his second game high into attacking 50. Radaglia couldn't take it. Aliir under enormous pressure from Wood. Handball comes out to him now. He goes onto the right foot. Logan Evans has got a big job. He's got to try and deal with Jack Higgins, and on this point he's now got Collard as well, and that is a huge challenge for the young man Evans to go head-to-head with Higgins, who's kicked 9 goals so far this year.
Saints by a point over at Giants Stadium. They lead West Coast by 63 in the final term. Toss back into play. Keeler doing the ruck work against Sweet. Comfortably beaten, but he only finds McRae once again. Handball backtracking, looking for Burns. Didn't reach him. Pepper picks it off. On a handball to Burgoyne. Stripped. Pocket picked. Sinclair towards the top of the goal square. They're outnumbered, the Saints. Doing well is Sharman. Got it towards Collard, who tumbles it from a tight angle. And Lance Collard finds the gap to roll it through. Goal umpire isn't totally convinced. I think we'll head upstairs.
Potentially touched off the boot, but St Kilda's pressure is just tenfold on Port Adelaide at the moment.
And Granville's stat 13-3. We haven't even been going half the quarter.
Replay in front of the scoreboard. Radaglia, who stuck an arm out to try and swat it away.
He looks confident.
Very grainy. As we zoom in as close as we can. Check the fingertips of the 100-gamer.
I think he's touched that.
Ball's got a good helicopter trajectory, so it doesn't really show much movement. St Kilda already up a point. This would make it 7. Still early stages of the opening term here at the Adelaide Oval as well. Great to have you with us on ABC Sport as we just wait for this game delayed. None of the whole division is showing anything definitive. Maybe headed back towards the goal umpire's call. Lance Collard, though, in good form. Here we go.
Touch by the left hand with Port Adelaide.
So Radaglia shines in his second game back. Shows that St Kilda won't get their second major. Visitors up by 2 points early in the opening term on ABC Sport.
The Granville stat is a huge... Granville gets a huge stat in the modern AFL game, and to be minus 10 at this early stage signals an intention by St Kilda. They want to get the ball on the ground.
Kane Farrell comes out with his kick, and it's a good one taken by Radaglia in game number 100 on the members' side, just at half-back. And the big unit, the former Cat, goes up down the line to half-forward. Couple of bites at it. Mark couldn't be completed there by Aaron Lord, who's into the side today. There was some talk we were going to see him earlier in the year that he hurt his shoulder in a practice match playing for the Port Magpies, but now he is finally back.
Sweet. Battling with Marshall, won it down. Nearly picked off by Hall. Bradley Hill gets the exit handball. Good diving tackle. Brought down Windhager by Rosie, but the St Kilda still get away with it. McRae towards left half forward. 2-on-2 awaits, and Sharman's too good. Outmarks Bergman close to the boundary line, left half forward. Saints headed to the left-hand side of your radio dial. Sharman lowers the eyes and dinks it to Hill. Presents on the paint of 50. Wants to open the angle. Wheels around, close to centre half forward, and flares it to the goal square. Front position brought down. Wood tried to take the mark, and Evans is set upon by a couple of Saints. Tight in the pocket. St Kilda's attacking 50, and they're up by 2.
Again, out of stoppage there, Bros, generating that extra number around the ball is really helping St Kilda with their forward offence.
Well, Sweet knocked it down. Port in defence, and they are trying to hold the ball in. The umpire is going to give them the benefit of the doubt. So we just come out from the pocket, about 15 metres out from the St Kilda goal. Sweet takes it out of the ruck, slams it onto the boot. Lord, little handball, intercepted by Trevelyan. He goes high, and it's one-on-one. Alir used the body beautifully. He's taken the mark. No, the umpire hasn't paid it. He has. So he's going to go back to Alir, and he's got a 50.
I think the Saints, whether they didn't hear the whistle or didn't see the call, tried to play on and take a quick shot at goal, and instead will be penalised for it. Not much of a 50, though, as the man on the mark's close to the centre circle. Alir in the corridor.
Terrible kick.
Bangs it long to nowhere in particular, and waiting in the hole is Stocker. St Kilda now on transition. Head to the eastern side to Burns in front of the Williams stand. Down the line, he'll look. Windhager the target. Front position, Rosie again. Got in front and knocked it over the boundary line. So that'll be an interesting challenge. Connor Rosie just the 2 touches in the opening term against the Bombers as he was tagged, and 8 for the half. Windhager's breathing down his neck through this first few phases, Brogues.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting battle, but Connor Rosie looks like he started well. He's got good energy. He's had a couple of tackles, and that was a really good disciplined spoil out of bounds there. It's just going to be a tough day for him. He's got to work through it.
Off the boundary throw-in, Sweet was looking for Mead. It was an awkward bounce, and Burgoyne's now wrapped up in front of the Bashir stand. St Kilda by 2 on ABC Sport.
But the alarm bells will be ringing everywhere from the midfield for Port Adelaide. They are getting absolutely trounced in this area. And again, another clearance for St Kilda.
Collard had the chance to pick it up through the centre of the ground, spins around quickly on his right. It was Wood versus Aaliyah. Sharman, in fact, and the umpire has found a free kick. So Sharman's got an opportunity here from 40 out. He's been prominent early, Cooper Sharman.
Brogues, you mentioned the stoppage again. St Kilda are generating an extra at the stoppage, but have also still been smart enough to bypass Port's spare in their back half.
Yeah, they're keeping their forward entries are low and wide. They've obviously identified getting the ball on the ground is going to trouble Port Adelaide. And, 17-4 in Granville Grants. I've been banging on about it most of this quarter.
Sharman kicked 2 against Geelong a couple of weeks ago in that tight win. This is a good one. From 40 out, drills it through. The Saints get their second, 2-3-15. They lead Port Adelaide 1-1-7, 14 gone.
Well, Port Adelaide are absolutely getting smashed in the contest at the moment. St Kilda tackles 9-2, contested ball 20-9, uncontested possession 18-6 St Kilda. Ground ball gets, I've been talking about this every time I get a chance to talk, 17-4 and clearance is 8-2. This is damaging at the moment for Port Adelaide, and talked about possessions. St Kilda plus 23 in possessions. They have really come to play today, and if I'm the midfield coach of Port Adelaide, they need to do something very quickly in that area.
Thoughts of Port Premiership ruckman Dean Brogan alongside All-Australian Scott Thompson. Head to Josh Money downstairs in a moment's time. The Saints by 8 over at Giants Stadium. GWS by 75 over the Eagles. It will be a record win for them if they keep this up. In the middle, Keeler battling with Wines. The Brownlow medalist stayed down and got the clean drop. Hands it to Drew for the power. Looking for Horn Francis. Got it to Mead in the end, and now Butters. Spearing kick into the right forward pocket. Backtracking Stocker got a hand on it. Paddled by Lord to Georgiades. Good smother. Wilkie with the desperation. Casual from Caminiti though. Didn't get it to a teammate. Richards stalking dangerously. Can't control it under all the pressure, and in the end Webster will clear it out towards left half back. The ball knocked over the boundary line. Josh Money downstairs.
Yeah, Aaron, it's almost a full team tag on Connor Rosie. He tried to come to the bench, and then 4 or 5 Saints players let him know about it as well. Marcus Windhager wearing him like a glove, and there was a short moment as he followed him to the bench where they both gave each other a little death stare, saying, "I'll see you in 5 minutes."
Josh Marnie on the boundary, Sunday afternoon football on ABC Sport. Ball's taken out of the centre, just working his way through there from the tap out was Horn Francis. Comes to Moraes. He puts the ball high, inside 50 for Port. Going back with the flight. Wanganeen Miller are all eyes on him from Port Adelaide today.
The Glenelg product shares it with a former Rooster, Callum Wilkie. 2 South Australians combining, and now Caminiti, the forward come defender, chips it to Stocker. How many do you reckon Jesse Hogan has at Giant Stadium, Brogues?
8.
Bang on. Nailed it.
I might have seen that.
Up by 81 now. Checking my screen out, are you? Down the broadcast wing go the Saints. Target was Keeler, brought down front and square. Handed out. Farrell got it to Drew. Tried to get it to Moraes. Placed it in front of him. The youngster on the charge. Clean gather. Centres towards Georgiades. He's bowled over. Rioli at the back on the tightest of angles, looking for some magic. Can't thread the needle. It's a minor score for the Power. 1-8. St Kilda lead 2-3-15. And we've played 17 minutes here at the Adelaide Oval on ABC Sport.
Moraes had that opportunity there, unselfish. He really was the young
speed, Soda. He's got some real toe, Moraes.
He looks good. Wilkie has it from just on the defensive 50, high onto centre wing in front of the interchange gates, and we'll see it out of bounds. Cal Wilkie actually has been a brilliant revelation for St Kilda, considering he came over from North Adelaide at 24 years of age.
Great to have you with us on this glorious Sunday afternoon in Adelaide. It's a great prelude to gather around next week. You can join us from Thursday night Tossed in Marshall, too good for Wines, but the Brownlow medalist with a diving tackle as he tried to get the disposal away. Trickles towards half forward, Hall on hands and knees, battling with Evans, and neither can win as it rolls over the boundary line. Saints by 7.
Well, what they're doing, St Kilda, is they're bringing 2 half forwards up, and it's only leaving 4 forwards, but they're really balancing and surrounding the stoppage. So no wonder why they've got a bit of stoppage dominance. It's just whether or not how long Port Adelaide are going to let them do that for.
Tossed in, Marshall down was looking for McRae, quickly wrapped up by Drew. Umpire said too high. Free kick to the new Saints. Premiership Bulldog Jack McRae plays on and looks to the left forward pocket. Players converge, Port have the outnumber, and Lockie Jones floats in front position to get the intercept mark in the right back pocket. St Kilda by 7 as we approach time on in the opening term.
Jones back in the side today, in a little bit of trouble in the pocket. Tried to work his way around under intense pressure. He's kicked it out on the full.
Just didn't play the percentage. That just needed to go back down the line. Took a great mark, Lockie Jones, but then just stepped off his line, and he's in the back 30 in your defensive half. Just kick it long down the line, get it out of that danger zone and get a stoppage, and just trying to be too clever, and that's not his game at all.
He just looked a bit panicked. He looked he caught him play on. He just had to do the simple kick down the line.
Jack Higgins
He's kicked that.
with the kick from the boundary. That is just brilliant. Great goal for the Saints. Higgins has been in ripping touch. He's kicked 3 goals and 4 goals the last 2 weeks, and he's popped that one through. That is just outstanding for St Kilda. 3-3-21, Port Adelaide 1-2-8.
Port Adelaide really need to think about how they're going to structure up at stoppage now. We've touched on the fact that St Kilda are getting their high half forwards up and involved, which is giving Port Adelaide a genuine +1 deep, but also a defensive one off the back of the contest too. And yes, I know Jones took that last mark, but neither of them are having any real influence. So they need to adjust what they're doing to try and wrestle back momentum of this first quarter.
Thoughts of Scott Thompson on ABC Sport. Sunday afternoon footy wedged between the Giants and the Eagles and the Dockers and the Dogs over at Giants Stadium as we close in on full time there. GWS by 87 points, and Jesse Hogan now has 9 goals. Beautiful bounce in the middle. Both rucks stayed down. Marshall wins it towards Garcia. Bangs it towards the 52-on-2. Good body work from Aaliyah. Front square, though. Quick kick towards the goal square by Collard. Had a bit of backspin as it sits up at the top of the paint and rolls through for a minor score on the right-hand side. Unlucky there for the youngsters. St Kilda continue to press, though. Up 14 points now.
They're looking dangerous, aren't they, St Kilda? They are up for this challenge today, and they are all over Port Adelaide.
Those clearances still 11-4. The kicking was towards Aaliyah. It's been intercepted by Hill. Comes back to Jones. Little kick around the corner into the centre of the ground. 2-on-1. They did really well there. It was Rosie. They got the chance to go now. Horne-Francis runs through the centre of the ground. Gets a handball out to Burgoyne. A little kick around the corner. Burne-Jones couldn't complete it on the paint. St Kilda forced the turnover. Great pressure by the Saints. Kick was up towards Hall. He couldn't take it. Port Adelaide back into the centre of the ground. Butters goes into the attacking 50, and that is a brilliant intercept mark, and that's Callum Wilkie.
He heads to the eastern side, had to be perfect, and places it to Bradley Hill in the middle of 3 power players. Outworked was the message out of the Bombers' loss for Port Adelaide, and it's happening again here. Wanganeen Miller in the centre square. Had Hill riding shotgun, faked one way, then looped it over the top to him. Back to Wanganeen Miller, and Rosie didn't chase. Was flat-footed in the middle. Wanganeen Miller marches towards the Wanganeen stand and into the pocket. Targeted Hall. Couldn't take it. Spills down to Aaliyah. Looks for the exit for Port Adelaide. Rosie couldn't take the mark. Looping overhead handball. Hollywood style from Marshall. Couldn't hit his target. Richards now goes for a run for the power. Hands it to Butters, then Drew. Linking through the corridor. Drew heads to the broadcast wing in the path of Horne-Francis.
Great mark. He started well, Horne-Francis.
Ripping mark by Horne-Francis. He goes to play on Rioli. It's 2 out. He couldn't take it. Callum Wilkie, last line of defence. Little kick around the corner. The whistle has gone, and it's downfield. Well, and Rioli is going at it as well. There is plenty of heat on this contest.
Stocker has just bowled him over out of nowhere. A huge hip and shoulder from behind. No free kick.
Garcia up the line. McRae flicks a little handball out towards Wood. Couldn't take it. Burgoyne on top. We're just in front of the interchange gates now, and the umpire will come in and get involved in this. There is plenty of heat in this contest and a little bit of spite mixed in too.
Tossed up broadcast wing, St Kilda by 14 on ABC Sport. Marshall to McRae, another clearance for St Kilda. Up to the attacking edge, Higgins the target, one-on-one, battling with Sin. Ball shoots past them to Collard, outside of the boot. He placed it to Higgins, who kept running. It's an awkward bounce. He makes it look good. Wheels around, unselfishly shares it to Hall. Just the required 15, straight in front, 30 metres out.
Well, St Kilda, wow, they are just torching Port Adelaide. Anything on the ground, they are just absolutely cleaning up. And clearances, I don't know how much we can bang on about it. It's like we got to send a message to the coaching staff of Port Adelaide. They just haven't changed a thing.
And again, but even Jack Higgins there, Brogues, that was pure work rate back to goal then, to get in behind his Port Adelaide defence and just really get on his bike and work hard back to goal.
In his fourth game, Max Hall comes in and looks right at home at the Adelaide Oval. Splits the big sticks for his first of the afternoon. And St Kilda are up by a game-high 20 points. Still 6 to play in the opening term. Great to have you with us for Sunday afternoon footy on ABC Sport. Your experts, Dean Brogan and Scott Thompson.
Well, the alarm bells are well and truly ringing up in the Port Adelaide coaching boss. They are getting absolutely smashed around the footy at the moment, and all the prime ball movers for St Kilda are in the game. Wangani Malira with 7, McRae 7 with a few clearances, Hill, Wilkie, all the players that are dangerous St Kilda are having a first quarter and a half.
They certainly are, Brogues, and you can't shy away from the numbers right now, unfortunately. Clearance is 12-4. It just means St Kilda are playing the game in their forward half, and when they do turn it over in their forward 50, they're set up really well defensively behind the ball.
Saints up by 20, 25 gone in this first term here. Round 4, body work by Sweet was good against Marshall, but he couldn't get an effective handball. Here's a chance now for Moraes. Pumps it to Powell Pepper. Gets his way around. Gives it off. Shoot little handball. Quick one. And St Kilda's defence, they're just locking the ball up. Wangani Miller can't get it out. Finally, as they're about to escape, the umpire has found a free kick, and it's going to go the way of Port Adelaide. Here's a chance now. Powell Pepper is really getting himself involved here, trying to just force something for Port, and he's drawn that free kick, so he'll shoot directly in front, 40 out.
Brogues, it wasn't pretty. Probably overused the handball going through the middle of the ground. A little bit of luck involved in the end, but some forward pressure. It just contributes to a shot on goal now.
Yeah, they're lucky they got this, but they're just handballing too much. They just needed to go to the top of the square and get an inside 50, but as it turns out, they're having a shot on goal.
Well, Powell Pepper kicked 3 against Richmond a couple of weeks ago. One of them was a ripper from the boundary. This one, though, directly in front from about 45, and he blazes it out to the right. So the lead now back to 19 points. Port Adelaide 139, St Kilda 4-4, 28, 26 gone in this first quarter.
Sinclair pops it to the left back pocket to Wilson. He's played every game since his debut last year. Slotted seamlessly into this 23. Looks for the switch across the defensive 50. It was a beautiful kick to Burns, and he put down the uncontested mark. Sliding in, he's caught a huge hip and shoulder coming through. Burns-Jones has knocked it out. Quick kick on goal, misses from Moraes as he tries to hook it from 30 out. Gee, Burns-Jones is lucky that Burns has popped straight up from that, because that was a heavy collision as he definitely opted to bump instead of gathering the ball. That'll be looked at. Meanwhile,
Farrell did not need to do that.
St Kilda's exit would have been picked off by Farrell, but he decided to wrench Wangani Miller away from the drop. Free kick St Kilda. They're currently leading by 18.
Wangani Miller just been caged in by Farrell. Works his way out, goes up the line. Logan Evans takes the mark. Nice intercept in front of Mason Wood. And this young man from Norwood, just 19 years of age, he's played every game since his debut in round 15 last year, has to go down the line under enormous pressure from Wood and blows it out, and Dean Brogan shakes his head.
I just don't know what they're looking for, and that just goes back long down the line. You get another contest. The game's not on your terms, so you've got to slow it down and keep it in your half. They're just looking to play the impossible football at the moment, Port Adelaide.
Could be a long afternoon for Port fans. 0437 774 774 is the text line. Wanganeen Miller are down the broadcast wing. Front position was Radaglia, knocked it down. Sharman there for the Saints, though. Uses McRae and then Higgins into the 50. They've got the outnumber. Out the back door. Mitch Owens loops it over the top. And Travalia can come in to kick his first goal in AFL footy. Toby Travalia out of Bendigo, pick number 8. Strikes at the northern end. And St Kilda are up by 4 goals. 5-4-34 plays 1-4-10 heading into quarter time. Josh Money downstairs for ABC Sport.
Yeah, the tag's clearly worked on Connor Rosie thus far. Port have tried to mix it up a bit, so the skipper has gone forward, and that's certainly a win for the Saints in that engine room.
Again there, Brogues, just their method at ground level. They won the ground ball, held their shape at the contest, and were able to cut Port Adelaide up by handball and again get in behind Port Adelaide's defence.
Yeah, and the numbers at the contest. They had 4 players at the drop of the ball there to Port Adelaide's 1. So, of course, they're going to win ground ball. And like you said, Tomo, they're coming up the ground and their defenders, Port's defenders, are following them. And they're getting goal side and kicking goals from the goal square. It's flabbergasting. Dumbfounded at the game plan Port Adelaide have come with today. They're getting smashed.
Well, Toby Travalia gets his first, as you heard Aaron Bryan's call, in just his second game. Pick number 8 in the last draft. Ball knocked down from the ruckwork between the two. Comes out to Jack McRae through the centre of the ground. He goes into the forward line. Couple of bites. Mark taken by the Saints. What a start. And again, as we've said, it is the midfield where all the trouble has been caused. And little Jack Higgins, who has been on fire again today, a nice little 2-biter.
How's the kick from McRae? Like, he's running. Sorry.
Higgins on his left, goes around the corner, drills it through. He's got 2, and the margin now is 5 goals. What a start by the Saints. 6-4-40, Port Adelaide 1-4-10, and we've had 29.5 played in this first term.
I should have known Higgins always plays on and runs around. So what I was saying was McRae's kick to Higgins was a beauty, and McRae is absolutely smashing Port Adelaide at the moment. He's having a day out. First quarter, 9 possessions, 6 contested possessions, 4 ground ball gets, 3 clearances. He's by far the best player on the ground, chucking 2 inside 50s there and 4 score involvements. He is best player on the ground. If I'm Port Adelaide, I'm sending Drew to him right now.
He certainly needs some attention, doesn't he?
Saints by 30. Closing in on quarter time at the Adelaide Oval. It's got Brisbane round 13 last year all over it. Power fans will unleash if Port Adelaide cannot find a way to compete this afternoon. Sweet out of the middle. Hands it, looking for Wines. Was a little short. Will tow it towards the broadcast wing, and Butters puts on the Jets. Clean gather. Handball over the top to Mead. Screws it centrally to Horne-Francis. Found himself alone. 30 from home. Slight angle to the right.
Boy, do they need this. Great kick by Mead. Just to lower his eyes and spot Horne-Francis. It was a really clever kick by Mead.
The All-Australian squad last year hasn't backed it up this season, but does love playing the Saints. 28 touches and a goal and 3 Brownlow votes last time they met, which was an absolute thriller. 2-point win in round 17 for the Power at the Docklands. Horne-Francis starts his approach from right half forward, crosses the paint of 50, comfortable lean back and straight over the goal umpire's hat.
Well, they needed that, Port Adelaide, and they started in the middle with just Jordan Sweet, pressure on the ball, and get it to a little element of luck, but get it to the outside run of Butters, who was creative with an outside handball, just to get the next line into time and space. And, you know, Horne-Francis presented well and finished the job.
Port's second goal of the afternoon, 2-4-16. They trail the Saints 6-4-40, 24-point margin at the moment here at the Adelaide Oval. Meanwhile, full time at Giant Stadium, GWS defeat West Coast by a record 81 points. Their biggest victory over West Coast, 2012, 132 to 7-9-51. And Jesse Hogan finishes with 9 goals.
I like this by Port Adelaide. Wines has gone in, Powpepper's gone in, some strong bodies just to try and settle the momentum, get it back their way a little bit.
Jason Horne-Francis with his 2 goals is in the goal square now against Callum Wilkie, and we heard a hint this week that he's going to spend a little more time forward, and it's happened so far. The umpire is going to find a free kick. It's going to Jordan Sweet for being held in that ruck contest by Marshall, the former North Adelaide Premiership player. Gives it off Richards. He's got a runner, and the kick into the Powpepper direction. Moraes tries to put some pressure on Wines. Sitting on the back of him was Sinclair, comes out the power pepper, and Jack McRae's doing it all. He's wrapped him up beautifully, and his day is just becoming more and more outstanding. 6 contested possessions for the former Bulldog already.
Saints by 24. Marshall taps it down, had an arm over the shoulder from Sweet, no call. Wines gets it to Butters, dinks it into the 50. Horn Francis the target, and Wanganeen Miller got across. Burns tries to run out of the 50, and Burn-Jones gets him. The third degree between the two Burns, and it's on again. Free kick, Port Adelaide. Jordan Sweet, again the security guard for his midfielders, comes in to break it up, and Darcy Burn-Jones will get the free kick. 40 from home, 45-degree angle to the left.
Well, they're just starting to win a few clearances now. Like you said, Tomo, they've thrown the A-graders out and brought in their toughest contested ball winner in Wines and Pep, and they've just started to win a couple of clearances, and Jordan Sweet's really stood up the last 5 minutes, and he's had enough of what's going on.
So Burn-Jones got Ryan Burns. Port Adelaide a chance at goal. Jones across the face. It'll sit up on the behind line, knocked into play. Richards was front and square but fumbled. Shoots a handball across the deck. Nutmeg Drew. Head over the footy. High tackle laid on Wilson. Connor Rosie stuck the arm out and caught him around the neck. Free kick in the left back pocket for the Saints. They currently lead by 24.
Well, Rosie, we said Windenhager's doing the job. I mean, Rosie only had 2 possessions, and Windenhager is up to 7. Which is Rosie's move to forward line.
Kick in, taken by Alea at the half-forward flank, gives it to Butters. His kick from the boundary line goes into the attacking 50. Georgiades went through his hands, and St Kilda will hold it here while a couple of power boys just wrap into Webster there, and we'll have the ball thrown up. Tap down. Oh, Horn Francis just read that beautifully off the hand of Sweet, but he was taken down, ball off the deck, going close to the line. Richards gives a handball, and the tackle is a good one. It's from Hall, but the umpire has found a free kick for a throw, and it's going to go the way of the Saints. It's going to go to Wanganeen Miller.
Got to be quick if they want a late score. They won't mind, though, up 24 points. Wanganeen Miller at left half back. Stares into the sun. And winds down the clock to quarter time. Listen to the Port fans. Not happy with that start. Down 24 points at the first change. 6-4-40 to the power. 2-4-16. Goal scorers for the visitors: 2 to Higgins, singles to Travalia, his first in the AFL. Owens, Hall and Sharman. The only 2 goals for Port Adelaide coming off the boot of Jason Horn-Francis. Connor Rosie struggling to get going, just the 2 touches. Butters has 10 on return. Wanganeen Miller with 10 for the Saints, and McRae with 9 as well. Great to have you with us as we close in on the conclusion of round 4. Still Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs to come. And if you missed it before, the end of the Giants and the Eagles at Giant Stadium went the way of the home side. An 81-point win for the Giants, 20-12-132 to 7-9-51. The text line across the day, 0437 774 774. Simon from Melrose says, hey team, enjoying the call while driving down from the Flinders Ranges. Stay safe, Simon. And Sean says the Power forgot to add the zap to the lightning bolt on their jumper today. Certainly I've been a little lethargic early, Sean. We'll see if they can channel some of that retro 2004 to 2006 energy as we go across the day. St Kilda by 24 points at the first change. The thoughts of Dean Brogan and Scott Thompson to come next on ABC Sport.
The footy might stop with the final siren, but with ABC AFL, the conversation keeps rolling. Get ABC AFL Daily Podcast with Premiership coach Paul Roos alongside Corbin Middlemass, Ben Cameron and Poppy Penny.
From walking on thin ice to dancing on the mountaintop.
It's your daily footy conversation. Find it on the ABC Listen app. This is the 2025 AFL Premiership season on ABC Sport.
Willie Rioli, just where the 50 line meets the boundary. Members side here at Adelaide Oval. He lowers the eyes, drops a little kick in. It's perfect.
Mark kick.
Very, very good indeed. Here's Horn Francis from 40.
50.
That's going to be up against St Kilda there, and it's on now. They've all run in there.
Look at this.
Old school. Well, all the hijinks was going on between the two sides. Jason Horne-Francis in the square has popped through the goal.
Marshall, who heaves it towards the 50, back at the flight. Keeler couldn't take it. Radaglia brings it to ground. He'll get another bite. Tackled, stripped. Brought down Bergman. Ripped away. Owens a couple of side steps. Low snap from 30. Mitch Owens gets St Kilda on the board.
Jones back in the side today, in a little bit of trouble in the pocket. Tried to work his way around under intense pressure. He's kicked it out on the full. Jack Higgins with the kick from the boundary. That is just brilliant.
Wanganeen Miller are down the broadcast wing. Front position was Radaglia, knocked it down. Sharman there for the Saints, though. Uses McRae and then Higgins into the 50. They've got the outnumber. Out the back door. Mitch Owens loops it over the top. And Travalia can come in to kick his first goal in AFL footy.
This is ABC Sports coverage of the AFL.
On your radio.
ABC Sport Digital.
And on the ABC Listen app.
The Saints have stunned the Power early on the road. 6-4-40 they lead to Port Adelaide's 2-4-16. And again, the home side looking lethargic. They've been outworked at stoppage. It's been an impressive display from the young Saints so far as we wrap up round 4 here at the Adelaide Oval, the penultimate game before Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs. Earlier, the Giants defeated the Eagles by 81 points. And if you do want to jump away to hear the Dockers and the Dogs later, the ABC Listen app is your home of footy through the AFL button. Aaron Bryans and Mark Soderstrom calling the action here alongside Premiership ruckman Dean Brogan and All-Australian Scott Thompson. And Brogues, it was tough to watch you during that quarter. You could sense the frustration from what you're seeing for the Port Adelaide side.
We spoke about it all pre-game, that it's going to be won and lost in the midfield. And great, let's take nothing away from St Kilda. They have come with a game plan to absolutely destroy them through the midfield. They're bringing up numbers around the stoppage, but Cray's getting loose around that stoppage and getting to the front of the ruckman, and they're just absolutely smashing them around the footy to the point there, Tomo, where they had to put Sam Powell-Pepper and Ollie Wines in there and get Horne-Francis and Rosie out.
And Horne-Francis, to his credit, he's hit the scoreboard, so he's gone forward and had an impact. But as we're starting to see get into the game a little bit late in that back half of that first quarter, but you're right, Bros, they're getting smashed at the area that they should be taking serious pride in, and that's through the middle of the ground. And with the Saints sending some high numbers up in and around that stoppage, Saints have still been good enough to win it at the source, but then have the composure piece going forward to bypass Port Adelaide's extras. So they've still found an avenue to goal, even though they're generating the extras at the ball.
And really smart. They're kicking it wide and along the ground, and they're resetting really hard the forwards that are coming up. They're resetting. They're getting back towards goal so quickly that sometimes they're actually getting goal side of Port Adelaide's defence. But if Port don't sort this midfield thing out, this is going to be a long day for Port Adelaide, because they can't keep tracking the way they're going. They're getting done in contested possession, ground ball gets and clearances. They evened up the last couple of minutes. They got a couple of clearances, but if it keeps going like this, they're not going to win the game.
Thoughts of Dean Brogan and Scott Thompson with you here. Boys, you talked about Ross Lyon, always traditionally quite defensive. We're seeing the attack. They've kicked 40 points in this first term, and they look really good. They're moving the ball freely.
Well, and they're sweating on Port Adelaide turning the ball over. Port Adelaide seem to be handballing a little bit too much as well. And, Wanganeen Miller has had 10 going at, 50% efficiency. Hill's got into the game. Just when they've got the ball in hand, they just look like they're going to piece through Port Adelaide.
It's work rate, pure work rate by St Kilda at the moment, Brogues.
On the text line, one listener says Port Adelaide didn't have their breakfast this morning. They'll come back and win. And Fran from Melbourne's enjoying the call as well. Says Port Adelaide will be cringing about the prospect of playing Hawthorn next week. Saints by 24, second term underway. Nice straight bounce in the middle. Neither ruck get a tap, and McRae just volleys it out of there towards the Riverbank stand, the right-hand side of your radio dial. Bergman can cut it off. Handed it to Horne-Francis. A couple of fumbles. Sweet comes in with the assist. Gets it to Evans. Bullet pass low on the bounce to Rioli. Good take. Spins around. Georgiades presents and he hits him lace out. Straight in front, 40 from home.
That's the pickup by Jordan Sweet. Came over there to help out in the contest, and one-touch pickup because little fumble by Horne-Francis. But that was better play from Port Adelaide.
Much better. Beautiful pickup by Rioli too, and then to Whelan hit that kick.
Georgiades looking for his first of the contest after 2 last week. Comfortably Port Adelaide's best player against the Bombers. Starts in the centre square. 6'5" for the year. This could be absolutely anything. Methodical approach from Georgiades. Drops down, straight kick. It's true and home.
Much better start by Port Adelaide, and off the back half there, just Horne-Francis. Yes, there was a little fumble, but firstly by Bergman to get it out there to Horne-Francis, and then players moving forward of the ball, which doesn't allow St Kilda to get set.
Georgiades with his first of the afternoon. Port Adelaide reduced the deficit to 3 goals. Josh Money downstairs.
Yeah, Aaron, that's the start to the quarter Ken Hinkley would have wanted. I was watching the huddle at quarter time. He went straight up to his leadership group. Connor Rosie, Zach Butters, Sam Palpepper and Willem Drew. Bit unusual, clearly challenging them to lift on ground.
Josh Money on the boundary, Sunday afternoon football on ABC Sport. Great start for Port in this second term. Opening minute, Bergman was terrific at half-back. Probably the cleanest piece of play. Sweet, Rioli and Georgiades all combining to get them on the board. Back in the centre of the deck, Marshall and Sweet again. Sweet just tries to position himself in front of Marshall. Little tap over the top, was looking for Wines. Couldn't take it. Saints go forward. Oh, and a good tackle there from Bergman. He's made a good start. Little tunnel ball out towards Burgoyne. Shoots a handball along the ground, the centre of the deck. Rosie, just a little chipping kick looking for Richards. He's under pressure. Wanganeen Miller is just sweating on him, and his kick goes inboard. Wines can't take it. Coming through was Mead at half forward. Shoots a kick up. Georgiades in the best position. He's got space from Caminiti from right in front of the scoreboard. Tries to screw the ball around. Hasn't got enough on it. The ball out of bounds. So right next to the point post in front of the scoreboard.
St Kilda by 18. Sunday footy on ABC Sport. Caminiti to bring it back into play. Heads to the eastern wing in the Odie stand. And losing his footing is Sharman, so Aaliyah can comfortably jump in front and take the intercept mark. The All-Australian defender steps off his line and sends it into the scoreboard pocket. Georgiades gets some spacing, takes 4 bites and eventually reels it in close to ground with a nervous sock from the Port Adelaide fans, who have a set shot from the tight angle, 35 from home.
Well, it definitely come out a lot better at the start of this quarter. So whatever was said at quarter time, I think it was more just, what are we doing, fellas? And they've started the quarter really well. Good energy. They're starting to win their contest now and just getting a little bit of momentum to start the quarter, which they got in the back end of last quarter, to be fair, but they've started the quarter really well.
Yeah, they've lost their 2 centre bounces, but they just seem to have a little bit more method going forward at the moment now, Port Adelaide.
Thoughts of Scott Thompson and Dean Brogan on ABC Sport. Georgiades starts on the fence in front of the Wanganeen stand. Tight angle as he leans back from 40. Never a chance. Out on the full again. Free kick St Kilda. They'll start again from the left back pocket. They lead by 18.
You don't see many set shot goals from that side in front of the Gavin Wanganeen stand, do you?
It's a tough spot there, unless you're Eddie Betts, of course. Here's a chance now for Wanganeen Miller. Plays on. Drops a little kick. It's going to come across to Wilkie now. And the former North Adelaide defender, beautiful little kick. Releases nicely, coming up the wing here in front of the broadcast area. Higgins was the target. It was a nice kick from Burns. They're working to try and hold the ball in. Drew's sitting over the top, and the umpire will throw it up here. Forward flank for the Saints, right in front of the members here at the Adelaide Oval.
Lee Howson tosses it into the air. Marshall down, was looking for Garcia. Horne-Francis tailing him and tackles him over the boundary line.
They've evened up the numbers at the stoppage, Port Adelaide, so St Kilda, who were getting 1, sometimes 2 extra numbers around the ball, it's now an even number contest in there.
The master coach of Unley, Scott Thompson.
Yeah, good call by an experienced midfield player in Tomo, who settled that work very well.
Tossed in broadcast wing. Sweet down, looking for Horne-Francis. Bounced off his shins, good gather. Hands it to Drew for Port Adelaide in the middle. Farrell, quick little snap towards Richards. Dance step around a couple. Hands it to Burgoyne, heading into the 50. Front position, Caminiti. Knocked down by Georgiades. Desperation with the tackle as well. And forces a ball up, which they had no right to do. Inside the attacking 50 for Port Adelaide. Down 18 points.
Yeah, they're just starting to get the ball on the outside from these contests now, and you can just see their game starting to build. Now, if you're St Kilda, you've got to keep doing what you were doing in the first quarter.
Georgiades just drawing the ball to him, but that ruck that brought down there. Windhager with a clearing kick through half-back, and it goes out of bounds on that outer side in front of the Jack Oatey stand. Port Adelaide, well, they've certainly come out with a different type of ferocity. Their midfield work's been a lot better with Georgiades up forward providing a real target. Sweet and Marshall. Sweet taps it down. It was Butters, couldn't take it. Clearing kick from McRae, goes up into the Mitch Owens direction, but out of bounds on the fall. So Port Adelaide from half-back through Alier will bring it in.
3 goals the deficit. Alier on the 45 to Burgoyne, now looks for the switch. Here's Radagalier in game 100. Paul McCatt doesn't have a lot on the broadcast side. Bergman will float back with the assist, but they're giving up plenty of territory here as St Kilda set up a zone ahead. Bergman in the left-back pocket. Burbank stand behind him. Heads to the western side in front of the Bradman stand. Richards at the back, couldn't control it, had to tackle Wilson. Handball missed. Travalia buffeted over the line by Lockie Jones. We'll get a boundary throw in true centre wing. Earlier the Giants winners by 81 points. Jesse Hogan had 9, but the Greens starred. Toby with 3 goals and Tom with 37 touches and 2 majors. West Coast play Carlton next week. Blues might finally get a win. The way they're tracking. Tossed in, free kick in the ruck contest for a hold, and it's going Port Adelaide's way.
Connor Rosie has it here, centre wing, just drops it into Drew. Just a little 15-metre kick. Drew in turn goes short, and it's a mark by Rioli. He's got Butters running past on the flank. He gives it back to Rioli. A little bounce off the head under pressure from Windhager. Coming through was Drew, and his kick is hacked forward, but it's cut off nicely in defence by the Saints. Marshall's the target, and he's going to get a free kick. Butters just went for the punch across the shoulder, so Marshall will have it right on the end of the defensive 50.
I just don't understand why Port Adelaide just don't pump that in and get it into 0 to 30. They're just trying to make the perfect play up. They've got St Kilda on the back foot. Just get it in your forward 50 and build some forward half pressure.
Switches on. Marshall to Caminiti, then Wilkie, and now McRae up the eastern wing. Wilson at the ball drop, tackled by Alier. Ball bobbles out. Crowd thought it would be a free kick. Everyone stopped, but Mason Wood sends it into the 50. Bergman sliding in front, couldn't control it. Lockie Jones gathers, just managed to get a handball back to Bergman. Radagalier looks for the exit. Alier's his target, rising in front, takes it with one hand.
Very
sticky mitts. Basketball style as he just wrapped his hand around the ball.
Showed the crowd, didn't he? One-handed.
Right half back now, sends it up the eastern side, floating across Stocker with the fist. Sweet looks for the half volley and kicked it straight into the face of Sinclair, who looks unfazed. St Kilda with the turnover. Garcia to Windhager, ran out of room. Tackle forced an errant disposal. Drew picks it up and gets it to Rosie. Now Mead spun in the washing machine. Gave it to Rosie. Hospital handball. High pressure. St Kilda get the turnover. And Wilson's done the same. Back to Mead. Can Port Adelaide break the deadlock? Bergman through the corridor. Into the 50. Targeting Georgiades. Couldn't clunk it. Clean take. Wrapped up and dropped the ball though. Shoots to Travalia. Head over it. Moraes and Burne-Jones. The youngster looks to rip it out, but he's wrapped up in a tackle. Ball up to come, 45 from home for Port.
Port Adelaide just needed to get that off the line. Then Rioli was out. They had a +2 to the ball.
Georgiades again looked dangerous. Here comes to Powell Pepper. The whistle's gone, and the free kick's going to go to St Kilda. Powell Pepper was ready. He was just about 40 out, went to kick it around the corner. But Windhager has done a good job so far today. He's going to get the free kick, still in the defensive 50. 10 minutes gone in this second term, and it is the Saints by 3 goals.
Right half back now for the visitors. Burns looks to send it up towards the benches. Flying high, Owens couldn't take it, slipped through his hands. Bergman at the back. Uses Evans for Port, then Jones. Central to Rosie. Looping handball to Powell-Pepper. Turned out of trouble. Kept going to Drew. Bounced in front of him awkwardly. Wilson comes across to cut it off for the Saints. To Zach Jones. Now Hill. And out wide to Travalia. Game number 2 on the scoreboard as well. Places it to Marshall. The big man goes for a trot and then screws it to the attacking edge to Jones. No pressure right now for the Saints. Too easy to the 50, and Jones pinpoints it to Wood, who takes the mark straight in front, 40 from home.
Well, Port Adelaide again just want to handle. They've got St Kilda on the back foot, and they're just doing 2 or 3 more handballs than what they need to do, and they turn it over, and then St Kilda are almost the best in the comp from back half turnovers to going forward 50. Just played in St Kilda's hands. St Kilda shot on goal.
Wood will start in the centre square, fresh off 3 against the Tigers. Hop skip from Mason Wood, crosses the paint of 50, kicks from 45. It's starting left and not coming back. Minor score for the Saints. Lead is 19 points. Just the 1 goal in this second term in 11 minutes. Dean Brogan, your expert.
Yeah, just to reiterate what we're all saying up here, from what we're seeing, is handballs 22, kicks 21. It should be more kicks than handballs in a game of footy. Port are just handballing way too much.
Kick out. Horn Francis was the target. Pal Pepper in there. Wanganeen Miller hands the ball to Collard from inside 50. He has a run and just blows it out, kicking to the River Torrens end, and he's put it out in the fall. That was a shock, a really good opportunity. He had plenty of time and space.
Youngster out of Subi, finding his feet. The famous number 4 at St Kilda. Showing some good signs, though. That wasn't one of them. Port Adelaide now with the exit. Farrell up to the broadcast wing. Wanganeen Miller had front position and put down the uncontested mark. Won't matter. Jones picks it up, handed it to Windhager and kicks it straight up and down. Almost backwards with the spin. Palpepper rises and didn't take it. Caminiti there. A handball on hands and knees to McRae, who's set upon. We'll get a ball up just wide of the logo on the broadcast wing. St Kilda by 19 in this second term on ABC Sport.
Well, Port's contested possessions better this quarter. It's 13-all, so clearly they've come out. They've been given a rev up at quarter time in that space.
Wines doing the ruck work against Keeler. Free kick. Looks like it's going to go to Butters. He was slung in a tackle in the middle of the field. The umpire has called play on. They're going to take it back. No, the free kick is going to go to Georgiades. So he has it. 52 out. Quickly tries to put the ball into the pocket. Holy Lord, good mark on the lead. Tight angle.
Much better pressure from Port Adelaide there. They've evened up the contest. They're getting a really good look forward of the ball. But as you said, Brokes, at times have probably over-handballed. They're getting a really good look. They've got things on their terms at the moment. And that was far better execution going inside forward 50 that time, but by foot.
So Ollie Lord is in the pocket. It's a tough, tight kick. He's going to go around the corner on his right. Curves it in beautifully. His first chance in the AFL this year, and he kicks it beautifully for Port Adelaide. They get the goal. They're 4-4-4, 28. The Saints is 6-5, 41. You've had 13 gone in your second term here at the Adelaide Oval.
Yeah, you got to handball away from a contest to get it on the outside. But when your shoulders are out and you've got a team on the back foot, you're all over them in a lot of areas. You've got to put inside 50 pressure on. And Port Adelaide then, they got out. Great tackle by Mitch Georgiades, but they moved the ball by foot. Luckily, Mitch Georgiades, lots of pressure, but he just got on with it, got back, saw Lord and hit him. It's the quickest way to inside 50 is by foot. And like you said, if Port could just tidy up their kick-to-handball ratio, they could really come storm over St Kilda. And St Kilda, they've just dropped away the first 10 minutes of this last quarter.
Thoughts of Premiership Ruckman, Dean Brogan alongside All-Australian Scott Thompson on ABC Sport. Wayward bounce in the middle, favoured Sweet. Little overhead tap, down its way to Rosie. Toes it up towards half forward. Rioli with plenty of pace. Met it and rocketed it back off his shins. Tries a flicking handball in return. Didn't make the connection, and a couple of Saints come in for the tackle. Love this text from Phil in Victoria on 0437 774 774. Says Dean Brogan is the man. Great special comments. Good call.
It's got to be a mate of mine, surely. No, thank you.
Although he did call Adelaide sexy and tough last week, Dean Brogan, so maybe he's changing his colours.
I'm not lying, am I? They're a good footy team.
Ball up, didn't go too far. We'll try again in the centre square. The overcast conditions just disappearing the sun for a little bit. Horn Francis out of the ruck tap. Quick kick into the 50. Georgiades broke away from Wilkie on the quick burst and takes it on the chest. 40 from home, slight angle to the right.
He's certainly come alive in the second quarter, Georgiades, but he's just benefited from Port Adelaide's midfield, evening up the contest, getting their hands on the ball, and actually giving him a good look going inside forward 50. Great separation, good mark.
That Butters has again started a biff between Hugo Garcia, and there's about 4 of them. Now maybe 6 just coming together for a little scuffle. It won't impact the set shot. Georgiades comes in from 45, kicks a little wayward, and a minor score on the left-hand side.
He's got the yips now, Georgiades.
Connor Rosie, way better this quarter. He's up to 6 disposals, 3 clearances. So he's got his game going.
The Saints with a kick out under pressure was Wood, and the kick is out of bounds. It's marked. Duck's out of bounds, so Bergman has it. He's on the outer wing. Decides to come in. Long kick going forward. Pal Pepper's at the front. Georgiades at the back. Ball's punched down. Wood picks it up. Kick around the corner. Clears defensive 50. Outer wing as well. Bergman territory again up against Higgins. And also Sharman. The ball will be thrown in.
12-point lead to the Saints. Port have the last 3 goals, though, either side of quarter time. Tossed in on the eastern side. Wines doing the ruck work against Marshall. St Kilda win comfortably. Garcia, handball out to Wood. Through centre wing on the eastern side. Targeted Sharman. Out-muscled by Aaliyah. Over the shoulder. Free kick to Sharman. Chips it low to Hill. It's an awkward bounce. Desperate dive as he paddles it to Windhager. Tumbles a worm burner into the 50. Radaglia can gather. Had a couple of Saints closing, so he launches the exit, and Horn Francis on the run takes the mark. There was a free kick, but they'll take the advantage. Hands it to Richards. Back to Horn Francis in the corridor. Gives it to Butters. Missed the boot. Tumbles off the toe. Straight to St Kilda. Sinclair up to right half forward. Kicks a little wide. Higgins on the charge. Second to it as he tackles Bergman over the boundary line. And it will be tossed into play right half forward for the Saints. They lead by 12.
Again, just Horn Francis was out. Just kick the ball inside 50. He just handballed to Butters, who wasn't really expecting it. Again, an error.
And a fresh airy from Butters as he's come back in as Sweet and Marshall go at it. Burne-Jones over the back, handball to Wines, and he just distributes the ball to the outer side. Burgoyne, and he's got some support. Logan Evans, oh no, Horn Francis has just gone for a hanger and given away the free kick. He was up about an hour and a half early, and the Saints get a free hit out of this. Here's Burns.
He telegraphed that one very early. Did Jason Horn Francis. Switch across half-back, Travalia to Marshall, forward of centre wing on the broadcast side. 2 goals there lead the Saints after they were up by 24 at the first change. Port showing some fight after a dismal start. Speaking of dismal, that was poor from Marshall. That's the old Rucks can't kick, Brogues, as he dropped it low towards the boundary line and missed Travalia.
Well, Marshall is normally a good kick, but St Kilda are just off. Port Adelaide are playing really well, but St Kilda are a shell of themselves compared to the first quarter, and just little skill errors like that are just starting to creep in with them.
Bounced over the boundary line, so it'll be tossed in. Right half forward for the Saints, kicking to the right-hand side of your radio dial. Sweet down to Wines, had an arm pinned by Jones immediately. Couldn't control the footy. Everyone collapses. We'll get a ball up. Dennis on the text line, travelling to Mortdale from Lithgow on the train, enjoying the call. Great to have you with us, Dennis.
It's dark out there, isn't it?
It's gotten a little ominous. Great, I didn't show much rain.
Yellow footy.
Here's the red one this afternoon. Out of the stoppage, Sinclair hacks it into the 50, leading out Bergman, couldn't control it. Now St Kilda on the pounce. Wood gathers, snaps from 25 and cashes in. Mason Wood puts St Kilda up by 3 majors. 6-5-41. 7-5-47 to 4-5-29. Still 6 to play in the second term. Mason Wood has his first of the afternoon. Your experts, Dean Brogan and Scott Thompson on ABC Sport.
And that one there is a little bit against the flow. I mean, Bergman ran into his teammate there, which made the ball spill, but Port Adelaide have had a lot of the play. They're getting a really good look in their forward half. They've got even numbers forward of the play, but coming through the centre now on numerous occasions have wanted to overuse the ball, and they're coming unstuck. So if they can tidy up their efficiency with ball use, they're getting a really good look at this, and they've got St Kilda on the back foot.
The Saints led by 4 goals at quarter time. Port halved that. It's back out to 3 goals now with that nice finish from Wood. We're in the time on in the second quarter. Marshall and Sweet reacquaint themselves, coming through Garcia. Little look away to Jones. His handball to Marshall. Just goes with a little chipping kick. Hill gives it with a runner going past. And a long kick is good.
Nice goal.
And that's Wood. No, it's Sinclair, in fact.
Wilson.
And it's Wilson. Let's
That's
have a go.
unlucky,
Bang,
Soda.
bang, bang.
But what a beautiful goal. And we talk about that, like St Kilda, that was just a grubber kick because you could see Hill out. Instead of trying to pick it up and handball, they just got some territory. Hill picked it up, drew the player, and it was Wilson from the wing. Lovely finish, and St Kilda have responded, and they needed to, because Port have had all the play this quarter.
Well, how often do we see that happen where Port have all the momentum, can't execute, can't get on the scoreboard after a couple of good looks? St Kilda get one against the flow with Mason Wood, and then straight out of the middle, time and space, and an outstanding finish by Wilson in the end.
What a star he's been, the first round pick from a couple of years ago. Darcy Wilson. A great afternoon already, and St Kilda back up by 24 points. Still 5 to play in this second term. Earlier, the Giants winners over the Eagles by 81. Bounce in the middle, Sweet down, but Marshall plucks it. Quick kick to half forward to no one in particular, and Evans was lucky to be in the spot. Chips it to Rosie, wasn't 15. McRae will close, but Rosie's clean. Turns and pops it to Bergman. Defensive edge of the square on the eastern side. Flares it inboard. Treacherous to Farrell. He's bowled over. St Kilda on the turnover. Sinclair to Hill. Hands it off to McRae. Lowers the eyes. Bullet pass. Little short for Wanganeen Miller. Radagalier overcommitted. Keeler gathers. Gives it to Sinclair and he misses. 20 out straight in front. Port Adelaide get away with one there. Saints by 25. 23 played in the second term.
Well, there's one place you don't want to turn the ball over as St Kilda is right in the middle of the ground, and like you said then, Aaron, they absolutely got away with one because St Kilda were everywhere and just botched it.
Evans' little kick was to Aaliyah. It only went 20 and it didn't get to the distance. So St Kilda defensive pressure in their forward 50 was terrific. The ball is going to be reset and thrown up. 20 out from the Saints goal. Sweet used the body well through Keeler out. Tackle from Drew, and he's going to get the free kick. Nicely done. Able to just chip it to Moraes. Gives a handball. Running hard now is Rosie from halfback. Runs into the centre of the ground. Gets around Jones. A handball going forward to Mead. Oh, he had Rioli on. It was terrific work by St Kilda. Turnover. Comes out to Wanganeen. Miller on the outer wing. A handball over the top. McRae, who has had an absolute glut of the ball, gives it back to Wanganeen Miller from 40. Oh, that is a brilliant goal by the Saints. They've worked that all the way from half-back, and they get back-to-back goals. Terrific finish from Wanganeen Miller.
I feel like we need to send a message out somewhere. We used to be coaches. Why are they handballing so much, Port Adelaide? It is inviting St Kilda's pressure. Their shoulders are out. They've got one-on-ones in their forward line. Mitch Georgiadis is by himself screaming, kick the ball to me, but they just refuse to kick the ball inside 50. They turn it over and away St Kilda go. Wow, has he got some pace? Wanganeen Malira, what a player.
Yeah, set up by a really fierce tackle on Mead where that one extra handball came, but are we surprised that Miller has knocked that over? That's a brilliant finish, but from one of their quality ball users. And again now, Port Adelaide really chasing their tail at the start of this second quarter, put all their energy in to get the game on their terms, can't execute, can't finish in front of goal, and now again all the momentum. So swings and roundabouts with momentum shifts, it's all going St Kilda's way again now.
Hey, I would open up the checkbook for this kid. I'll tell you what, Port Adelaide, clear the books for Wanganeen Malira. He is special.
Pros are in the hunt as well. The Saints by 31 points as we close in on half-time out of the middle. Sweet down to Horn Francis. High tackle laid. It'll be a free kick to Connor Rosie. 9-6-60 the Saints. Port 4-5-29. Rosie has a couple of runners. Uses the second option to Bergman. Drives it long. Penetrating kick. Georgiades rose. Couldn't take the hanger. Spills in front of the scoreboard. And they converge for a couple of tackles. Ball up to come. St Kilda with 3 consecutive goals off turnover after Port had reduced the margin to a 2-goal game. Tossed up. Marshall down. Quick tackle laid. Get another ball up as Rioli pounces on top of Stocker. Bang in front of the scoreboard here, and the Power fans, a lot of them arms crossed right now. Marshall down to Travalia, found Wilkie, squeezes it down the boundary line up to left half back. Hall knocked away from Burgoyne. There's a hold and a free kick. Connor Rosie again gets the better of Marcus Windhager after a poor first term.
He's been good this quarter. He's working really hard and got himself into the game.
Too far out to score, so Rosie centres his kick 20 from home. Powell-Pepper's in the hole and dropped it. Was all alone. Rolls out towards Burns. He's tackled by Burgoyne, and we'll get a ball up, 15 out.
He just dropped his head on that. He had it. Dropped his head down and it slipped through the hands.
Nice little touch by Wilkie, just disturbed Powell-Pepper there. There's a ball thrown up, and again, we've got a stalemate. 15 out from the Port Adelaide goal in front of the scoreboard here at Adelaide Oval. Saints have taken the lead from 24 points at quarter time to 31 now. Sweets tap towards the line, and plenty of pressure on Jackson Mead, and he'll take it out. They have a throw in now, similar spot.
Don't mind this from Port Adelaide, though. Repeat stoppages, making the St Kilda defence actually have to defend.
Port Adelaide worked hard to get within 12 points, but those 3 goals from the Saints have really hurt them now. Comes down to Horne-Francis. Weaves himself in and out of trouble. Shoots the handball to Farrell. We know he's great on his left from outside 50, but just drifts it off to the left of the goalpost. So they are back down to a 30-point break. The Saints 9-6-60. Port Adelaide 4-6-30. Deep into time on. 27.5 second term.
Wanganeen Miller are directing traffic from the defensive goal square. Disposal number 7 for the term coming up. Heads to the eastern side. Wilkie's his target. Outnumbered. Brought it to ground. Travalia front and square. Can't control it. Rolls out over the boundary line in front of the Odie stand. Josh Money downstairs.
Yeah, it is noticeably dark at ground level, Aaron. Just wondering if Adelaide Oval perhaps forgot about daylight saving coming to an end. A red ball is interesting at this time of day as well, isn't it? Obviously, you can't change to the yellow now, so just one to watch.
Did have a great sleep last night. Thanks for the extra hour. Tossed in, Marshall down, looking for Sinclair. Little half volley, bouncing to Hall, threw his body on the line to ricochet it to the centre square. Aaliyah with the gather, though, for the power. Hands it to Drew, then Mead. Now Richards dances his way around Sharman. Up towards the 50. Places it to Burgoyne. He's all alone. 45 from home. Goes for glory. It's across the face. Horne-Francis with the desperate dive on the behind line. Couldn't get there. And it's a minor score. Saints by 29. 9-6-60 to Port Adelaide's 4-7-31. Still a couple of minutes to go before half-time.
Chance for the Saints coming out of defence. Wanganeen Miller essentially carries it all the way to the 50. Goes long up the half back, and the mark's taken there by Aaliyah. Nice intercept. So he's on centre wing just in front of the interchange gates. Members side goes for a high ball, looking in for the Horne-Francis direction. Couldn't quite hold it. Georgiades stayed down and then slipped. Gave off a handball. Powell-Pepper feeds it inside. Around the corner was Hall. Through the hands of Sharman. Comes to Lockie Jones and he chips it in. Centre wing, and he's got Farrell right on the true centre wing member side.
Wanted the switch, but no one was on the eastern wing. Up centrally. Mark taken by Sin. Deep kick to the 50. Horne-Francis thrusts himself into the air from the side and clunks the mark over the top of the pack. Jason Horne-Francis looking for 3 in the opening half. 45-degree angle to the left, 25 from home.
I've liked this by Port Adelaide in the last few minutes. They're making the Saints actually defend. They've used the ball a little bit better by foot going inside their forward 50. I mean, fantastic mark by Horne-Francis. Georgiades is getting a good look. He's much better when he gets a run and jump at it too.
Jason Horne-Francis looking for a settler on the stroke of half-time. Long approach. Drills it from 30. He's got 3. Margin down to 23 points. Port Adelaide 5-7-37. St Kilda 9-6-60. 30 played in the second term on ABC Sport. Josh Money downstairs.
Saba Radaglilia just getting patched up now in the back of his head. Absolutely streaming blood after that big marking effort from Kirby Sharman. So we'll have a sore head tomorrow.
Yeah, well, it's a great call by Tomo. Port Adelaide just controlling the footy, and it just like they're getting the ball inside 50, which has been screaming for them to do for most of the quarter. When they get those deep entries and flat kicks, it gives Georgiades, Horne-Francis a good run and jump at the footy. And you know, Horne-Francis looks like he's the difference in the game at the moment. He's so dangerous when he's one out and can fly at the footy. And you can see him in the goal square now. He's one out, and really like him as a forward.
Back in the middle of the ground, the bounce favours Marshall, but it comes off into the hands of Butters. Clearing kick going forward. Georgiades was the target. Caminiti was in front of him, but free kick is going to go to the Saints defender, who did a really nice job getting in front of Georgiades, keeping him out and putting pressure on him. Little chip back to Wilson.
Looking for options. He points towards the broadcast wing. Target is Mason Wood. Had a bit of space on Sin. Rises. Oil came late. Knocked down to Jones. Ran into a wall of Sweet. Clean wrench out by Butters. Retreats back to Jones. Port Adelaide looking central, but the time will run out. Major break at the Adelaide Oval. And so far the jeers have subsided after the home crowd were pretty frustrated at quarter time. They were down 24 at that stage. It's now 23 at half-time. 9-6-60 to the Power, 5-7-37. St Kilda's goal scorers, 2 to Higgins, singles to Travalia, Wanganeen, Millerer, Owens, Wilson, Wood, Hall and Sharman. For Port Adelaide, a career-high 3 for Jason Horne-Francis, and singles to Georgiades and Ollie Lord. On the text line, 0437 774 774. Sarah says, love listening to the Saints in front of the fire with a hot pie. No power here in Terrap Terrap. The power is out just like Port Adelaide at the moment. Love that from Sarah. And also, one of our listeners is in Thailand, hasn't left their name, but says, nice and warm here. Great call, and hopefully Port Adelaide can get the job done in the second half. That is from Bruce. So thank you, Bruce. 0437 774 774. Earlier, the Giants defeating West Coast by 81 points at Giant Stadium, their biggest win ever over the Eagles. And still to come, Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs. You can hear our coverage now on the ABC Listen app if you do want to get the build-up to bounce down at Perth Stadium with Clint Wilden, Mitch Turner, Peter Bell and Shane Woden. So the ABC Listen app, your home of every game of the 2025 AFL season. Aaron Bryans and Mark Soderstrom calling the action here. Your experts to break down the opening half, Dean Brogan and Scott Thompson.
Well, it's a better quarter from Port Adelaide. They got themselves back in the game purely around the contest. They were getting absolutely smashed at clearances. Their contest work was poor. St Kilda came with a clear plan to bring half forwards up and to make it a bit of a contest, and they dominated in that area. And then once they got out, they were just kicking goals from the goal square. So Port Adelaide were all out at sea that first quarter. They regrouped at quarter time, brought themselves up, evened up the numbers around the contest, Tomo, and got themselves back in the game purely simply because of that.
Yeah, they certainly wanted to compete more. They were more desperate. You touch on the fact they evened up the numbers, but then once they did that, they got to work at ground level too. So the contested ball numbers went up, which obviously their ground ball numbers went up. They got a better look going inside their forward half into some low even numbers inside forward 50, and they got a couple of really good looks on goal. Now, there's always going to be momentum swings within games, and Port Adelaide, unfortunately for them, they did a bucket load of work to will themselves back into the game in the first half of that second quarter, and they start to get a bit of a sniff and couldn't execute on the scoreboard the way they needed to. Against the flow, Mason Wood kicks one that was unfortunate off Bergman. It spills out. They get a lucky one. But then after that, the next 6 or 7 minutes again, the floodgates almost open up for St Kilda, where they go forward uncontested on 2 plays in a row and knock it over a couple of times. And again, momentum's always St Kilda. So Port Adelaide, they'll regroup again, but they're still chasing their tail, even though they got a really good look in the first half of that second quarter.
Yeah, 100%. It was a good point. They threw everything at St Kilda, got it back to 12 points, and then a couple of little turnovers, and St Kilda just go whack, whack, back out to 30. If Port Adelaide are going to change anything, their game's in good order now around the contest, so they fixed that part of their game. The next part is they are handballing way too much. They're almost handballing as more as what they are kicking. You can't have that ratio. They've got to kick the ball more, because as we saw, when they do kick it inside 50 and flat. Like, you know, it gives Horn Francis and Georgiades a chance to lead up and have a fly at the footy. And as we can see, when they're doing that, they're almost like they score every time.
You're spot on, Breaks. If we just have a look at this here, Port Adelaide, 93 kicks, 75 handballs. The Saints, 112 kicks, 62 handballs. A huge difference.
That's the ratio. It's got to be around that ratio for St Kilda.
For Port Adelaide, though, we saw they started to move the ball well. You said they worked really hard for their 3 goals that term, and then St Kilda got their 3 in 4 minutes. Georgiades was presenting well, but some missed opportunities, so crucial, have really hurt Port now.
Yeah, and that was the unfortunate thing for Port Adelaide. When they did have the momentum, they weren't able to execute in front of goal. Georgiades had a couple of looks, one a tough snap from the boundary that went out on the full, but then his next set shot was the same result for an out on the full, so they certainly didn't maximise their opportunity. Brogues, you've certainly touched on and had a lot to say around their overuse of handball, and I totally agree where when they do go inside 50 by foot, they look a far more efficient side. When you handball the way they do and invite that extra handball, you're also inviting St Kilda's pressure, which has been at a very high standard in the first half. And when you're turning the ball over through that 50 to 70 band in your forward half, St Kilda are fantastic at rebounding off that with the likes of Wanganeen Millera, who's had an outstanding first half of football.
Well, he's had 18, Wanganeen Millera, almost 400 metres gained, 3 inside 50. He's had a clearance, a goal. He's absolutely doing everything. So if you've got to do something about this, because he's going to end up with 40 possessions and probably be the match winner. So if I'm Port Adelaide, there's a couple of little things you can do to try and take something off St Kilda. 1, stop handballing all the time, get the ball inside 50. And 2, you've got to do something to Wanganeen Millera.
One thing they want to do is buy him. But it's just a little early. They're not going to be able to do that yet.
Geez, I'd be going down there now and putting in an offer. He's a sensational player, isn't he?
Tell you what, I'm buying stocks in Ross Lyon as well. This is the most fun I've had watching a Ross Lyon coach side, I think, in his entire tenure. They're fast, they're slick, they're high pressure, high scoring.
It's a great point you make, Aaron. I watched that round 1 game against the Adelaide Crows out here, and I thought St Kilda were woeful that day. They really were. And then I watched them the following week against Geelong, and it looked like a completely different team. They played with dare, they played with freedom, they took the game on by foot and wanted to really challenge and stretch the opposition, and they just haven't looked back from that moment, and we've seen it again in the first half of football today. Set up by fantastic pressure around the contest.
Yeah, it's actually a good game to call, isn't it? It's free-flowing, it's hard. Both teams are having a crack now. Port were questionable the first goal. Both teams are really up and about for the fight, and when the ball's in flow, both teams look pretty good. Probably St Kilda a little bit more, but both teams in flow actually look all right. Like for St Kilda to have 15 shots at half-time, and they've missed a couple of easy ones as well. It's not Port Adelaide, but to kick 60, and the question was, can they do it outside of the Dome? What do you call that
Docklands?
stadium? Docklands, Telstra Dome, whatever it is.
Etihad. Is it still Etihad?
We try to avoid the sponsors on the ABC.
Sorry, exactly. So I called it the Dome. But they've actually brought their game to an oval that they don't really play that well at. So St Kilda are in good order, aren't they? I never thought I'd say I enjoy watching a Ross Lyons football team in terms of scoring output, and they're sharp.
Well, Brogues, you've talked about the Crows sexy and tough. Can we get St Kilda into the same sort of conversation?
Well, I don't know about sexy, but they play tough. They need to do it a bit of... I don't see them enough, so I see Adelaide every week, so... And I live in the States, so I've got a bit of a liking for more Adelaide Crows.
Thoughts to Dean Brogan, Scott Thompson, your experts this afternoon at the Adelaide Oval. Mark Soderstrom alongside myself, Aaron Bryans as well. On the text line, Anthony's a Giants fan listening closely from Newtown for intel on St Kilda ahead of seeing them live in Gather Round next weekend. Great to have you over, Anthony. Hopefully you'll enjoy the weekend. I'm sure you will. It's an absolutely spectacular occasion. So the Giants and the Saints at Norwood on Sunday. That'll be a really intimate setting. You'll love it, Anthony. Dave also says, what are we watching? I can't believe this is Port Adelaide. And if it is, they better bump out till 2026 and stop the rot. So Dave's not happy at all. And Scott from Penrith enjoying the coverage and wondering what is happening with Port Adelaide lately. And we've touched on it a lot through the call, Scott, and pre-game as well. They're being outworked pretty comfortably, I think, is the basis of the problems. There's a lot around it, but the effort isn't good enough right now.
And now they're playing catch-up, Aaron. Like, they just start the game so poorly. So for the rest of the game, they've just got to throw everything at it, and it's tiring. It's a really tiring way to play football. So, look, they're not out of it by any means. They do look like they can win this game, but it's they're going to have to kick they're going to have to get to 100 points, you would think. They're going to have monster second half. So it's not beyond them, but, yeah, it's going to be tough for them.
We'll recap what happened earlier at Giant Stadium as GWS demolished West Coast in a moment's time, and give you some scores from around the leagues as well, with the Super Netball underway and Tim Zoo's big fight against Joey Spencer as well. Also, if you missed it during the week, the really sad and devastating news that at Myanmar, Bangkok, were having to deal with a 7.7 magnitude earthquake. The ABC is working in partnership with the Emergency Action Alliance to actually help those affected by it. And you can support organisations on the ground in those areas by visiting www.abc.net.au/gives. Your donations will help provide food, water, shelter and medical assistance to those affected by that 7.7 magnitude earthquake. Some scores from around the grounds coming up in a moment's time, and we'll get the second half of Port Adelaide and St Kilda, with the Saints up by 23 at the major break. But for now, on ABC Radio, Sport Digital and the ABC Listen app, we can take the latest from the ABC newsroom.
ABC News, I'm Eliza Getzi. The Prime Minister and Opposition Leader have both spoken at campaign rallies today to make their pitch to voters. Alison Chow reports from Parliament House.
Anthony Albanese launched Labor's campaign in Queensland, speaking in Brisbane, while Peter Dutton addressed party faithful at a berry farm shed in rural Tasmania.
Today, in the Sunshine State, we're taking the next step on rooftop solar.
We are going to restore the dream of home ownership again, and it will be a significant priority of our government.
As well as local funding commitments, both leaders rolled out cost of living policies. Labor has pledged to subsidise the cost of household batteries by 30%, while the Coalition are promising to reduce the number of new international student enrolments by 80,000 in a bid to make housing more affordable.
Large protests have been held across the United States denouncing US President Donald Trump. It was the largest single day of demonstrations against Mr. Trump since his return to office. Protesters condemned the dismissal of government officials, the breakup of the Department of Education, and sweeping new trade tariffs. These people say the administration's actions are damaging the economy and will leave the USA weaker.
Stock market's crashing, the economy's going to crash, it's already crashing, and it's all about Trump. His actions, his stupidity, his mistakes.
One of my major concerns is how much disinformation that they are perpetuating out in the public. And when that happens, people get hurt.
The Israeli military has admitted it was wrong over its account of the killing of 15 emergency workers in Gaza last month, after claiming troops opened fire on the convoy as it approached without headlights or flashing lights. As the BBC's Alfie Tobit reports, a video retrieved from the phone of a paramedic killed in the attack cast doubt on that version of events.
The footage, published by the Palestine Red Crescent Society, shows clearly marked vehicles with their headlights and emergency lights on. At least one of the workers is wearing a reflective uniform. It appears to contradict the Israeli military's original explanation for why it opened fire just seconds later. At a briefing, an Israeli official admitted that account was inaccurate. They said the soldiers had earlier fired at a car containing 3 Hamas members, and when the emergency convoy stopped nearby, the troops assumed they were under threat. Israel maintains at least 6 of the medics were linked to Hamas, but it's not yet provided evidence to back up that claim.
Canadian police have arrested a man after an hours-long lockdown on Parliament Hill in the capital, Ottawa. Investigators say the man gained unauthorised access to Canada's Parliament on Saturday afternoon local time and barricaded himself inside the building. People were evacuated and police shut down 2 nearby streets, telling people in the Parliament's East Block to seek shelter in the nearest room and hide. In a post on social media hours later, police said the man had been taken into custody without incident. There was no immediate word on charges or motive. Back home, authorities are questioning 2 people after a fatal stabbing in Brisbane's inner north early this morning. Police were called to a unit at Bowen Hills at 4:15, where they found a 39-year-old man with stab wounds to his chest and back. He was taken to the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital, where he died a short time later. Acting Detective Inspector Murray O'Connell says a 22-year-old man and 45-year-old woman who were known to the victim are assisting police.
No one likes this project, and now we're seeing...
I'll bring you the correct audio. This is Acting Detective Inspector Murray O'Connell.
Early investigations indicate that the man was involved in an argument with 2 other people in the unit prior to being stabbed. We believe that they're extended family members, but we're still trying to work that out at the moment, just the dynamics of the family anyway.
The Victorian opposition has renewed its call for the Allen government to cancel the suburban rail loop project, as internal documents reveal support slumping from affected residents in Melbourne's east and southeast. The state government is standing by the controversial multi-billion-dollar project, saying it provides essential infrastructure and public transport for all Victorians. But state opposition leader Brad Button says the SRL has no friends.
No one likes this project. And now we're seeing that even the communities, Cheltenham and Box Hill, nearly a quarter of the people in those areas support it and 3/4 don't.
And in sport, Australian boxer Tim Tszyu has defeated American Joey Spencer by technical knockout in Newcastle. Tszyu claims the WBO Intercontinental Super Welterweight title with the win. He breaks a 2-fight losing streak and improves his professional record to 25 wins and 2 losses. ABC News.
Just like this flame bowerbird, ABC iView is free. Watch as he never pays for quality content. ABC iView, always free, always in.
Monday night.
Racing forward, edge of the box, the shoots right footed. What a strike!
The Matildas are back.
What a goal!
Catch every minute on the ABC Listen app. This is the 2025 AFL Premiership season on ABC Sport.
He was slung in a tackle in the middle of the field. The umpire has called play on. They're going to take it back. No, the free kick is going to go to Georgiades. So he has it, 52 out, quickly tries to put the ball into the pocket. Holy Lord, good mark on the lead. Tight angle. He's going to go around the corner on his right. Curves it in beautifully.
Out of the stoppage, Sinclair hacks it into the 50, leading out Bergman, couldn't control it. Now St Kilda on the pounce. Wood gathers it, snaps from 25 and cashes in. Mason Wood.
Turnover, comes out to Wanganeen. Miller on the outer wing, handball over the top. McRae, who has had an absolute glut of the ball, gives it back to Wanganeen. Miller from 40. Oh, that is a brilliant goal by the Saints. They've worked that all the way from half back, and they get back-to-back goals. Terrific finish from Wanganeen Miller.
Mark taken by Sin. Deep kick to the 50. Horn Francis thrusts himself into the air from the side and clunks the mark over the top of the pack. Long approach, drills it from 30. He's got 3.
This is ABC Sports coverage of the AFL.
On your radio,
ABC Sport Digital,
and on the ABC Listen app.
Troublesome signs for Port Adelaide. Very bullish showing from St Kilda on the road, who will be staying in Adelaide as they carry over to Norwood next Sunday as part of Gather Round. They look right at home all of a sudden at a venue that has troubled them over the last few years. They haven't won here since 2022. They've lost to Port Adelaide in 14 of their last 15 meetings, but right now up 23 points at half-time, and arguably should have been more after a really dominant opening term. 9-6-60 the Saints. Port Adelaide 5-7-37. Aaron Bryans with you as part of ABC Sports coverage of the AFL. It is the penultimate game of round 4. Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs to come next from Perth Stadium with Clint Wilden, Mitch Turner, Peter Bell and Shane Woden. We'll take you there as soon as this game ends. If you do want to hear the early stages, though, as there is a little bit of an overlap, you can jump on the ABC Listen app and hit the AFL button. Their pre-game has started, so you can hear the build-up now. If you want to, just jump on, switch over between AFL and AFL Extra, and you can hear the build-up and bounce down of Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs there. In terms of the team news, Wagner and O'Meara in for Fremantle, Aish and Erasmus out. Warner is their sub, and Gallagher is the sub for the Western Bulldogs. No changes there for the Dogs. Tim Tszyu has won his fight against Joey Spencer after a couple of world title defeats. So he won in the 4th round. Sounded like he was incredibly dominant to the point where Joey Spencer's team had to throw in the towel. And in the Super Netball, first round underway, the Thunderbirds had a 13-goal victory over the Vixens yesterday. The Lightning knocked off the Mavericks 69-59. The Firebirds now with Mary Chollock, who had 43 goals, knocked off the Giants by 5 goals, 62-57. And the Swifts currently lead the Fever 31-25 in the second quarter there. The A-League today, the Jets will take on the Phoenix in about 5 minutes' time. And in the A-League W, the Wanderers have the victory. Again, a very short kick-off to come. In the NRL today, the Sea Eagles trailing the Storm 18-10, so Melbourne leading there at half-time, and the Bulldogs still to play the Knights. And the early AFL game, the Giants absolutely walloped the Eagles. It was a little expected given the team news that West Coast had dropped Harry Edwards and Jeremy McGovern's out injured. So Jesse Hogan had an absolute field day, kicked 9 goals. Toby Green had 3 as well. Tom Green, 37 touches and 2 goals. The Giants winners by 81 points, 20-12, 132 to the Eagles, 7-9-51. It is GWS's biggest ever win over West Coast. There will be some match review news to come out of it. Toby Green, who's notorious for being fined, he's had over $40,000 back to the AFL. Tunnelled Matt Owies at one point, and it was a heavy landing for the New Eagles, so they'll certainly look at that come the next 24 hours. Text line today, 0437 774 774 as well if you want to get in touch. Tom in Wheelers Hill says, pottering in the shed, enjoying the call and a relaxed Hawthorn bye weekend. You must be even more relaxed looking at Port Adelaide right now, Tom, as well. Michael has the same sentiment, says, interested in this game as a Hawthorn supporter as we play Port next Sunday. Late start, but great to finish gather round. Looking forward to it, Michael. You can hear it all on the ABC Listen app. Aaron Bryans, Mark Soderstrom, Dean Brogan, Scott Thompson with you. The second half underway at the Adelaide Oval. St Kilda lead Port Adelaide by 23 points.
And it was 24 points at quarter time for all the work that Port did to get back into it. The Saints have kept the momentum. Taken out of the centre by Marshall. Kicks it half forward. He's been good in clearances, the big unit. Coming through now, little kick around the corner, going to the top of the square. The mark couldn't be taken. Aliir did well. And it was Sharman's kick, but the umpire has found a free kick. And it's going to go against Aliir. So the Saints will have an opportunity here, Mitch Owens, to open things up really quickly. Was a free kick there, Brogues?
Yeah, it was. And that's how Aliir plays his defence. Plays in front.
Owens got the Saints' first one, and he's got their first one after half-time as well. That was a terrific kick around the corner in front of the scoreboard. So St Kilda have taken the lead out to 29 points, and we are in the opening minute of this second half.
Well, you asked if it was a free kick. Look, did he have eyes for the footy? It's probably a 50-50 one looking at the replay, but St Kilda, clearance, win the contest ball at 50 and just dump it inside 50. And clearly they just think they've got an advantage by putting Port Adelaide's backs under pressure when they're one-on-one.
You could argue that was a soft free kick, but that's some of the stuff we spoke about in the first half, the lack of Port Adelaide able to do. St Kilda out of the middle from Marshall, hat kick, next hat kick inside 50, just to make Port Adelaide actually defend.
Saints by 29 points, the game high margin 31 midway through the second term. Port Adelaide hasn't really had a sniff this afternoon. Sweet out of the middle. Paddles it towards Butters on return. Sidesteps Sinclair. Hands it off to Wines. Tunnelling handball through, looking for Rioli. Palpepper gathers. Retreats back to Sweet in the centre square. Handball out wide. Rosie's alone. Releases Horn-Francis. Look to screw it centrally. Hand came in. And Sinclair will cut it off with the intercept mark. In defensive 50 for the Saints.
Well, again, Port Adelaide win the centre bounce clearance. Handball to nothing. Just handball, get it in inside 50, especially from centre bounce.
Just holding possession in the back half, the Saints. Sinclair's been terrific with his 40 last week. Good again today. Caminiti pops it over there to Webster, and he's camped in the back pocket. Decides to go up the outer side to half back. Lots of pressure coming on from Port Adelaide's defence, but a kick going forward to St Kilda into the Owens direction. Couldn't take it. Horn-Francis has it on the outer wing. Little chip into Rosie, middle of the ground. He takes off under pressure from Trafaglia coming at him. Going forward to Wilkie. Little handball low in defence. Looking for Caminiti, and he's got it, but turns it over to Lockie Jones.
Right half forward for the Power. Jones tries to look centrally. Kick was too low. Straight into the arms of Stocker. Lucky ricochet. Rioli can gather. and keeps it low to Pal Pepper, who slides in and takes the mark. 25 from home on a tight angle.
Element of luck there, but even then when Horn Francis got that ball out on the outer wing, it was good to see him look inside by foot, change the angle of the ball, and I think it was Rosie coming through the middle of the ground. It gives Port Adelaide a really good look versus the Wines one before. He turns into traffic, first orders to handball, and handball to nowhere.
Sam Powell-Pepper, 3 goals, 4 for the year. Starts at right half forward. Comes in, keeps it low and straight to the left. Never a chance. Minus score for Port Adelaide. Margin down to 28, early stages of the third term on ABC Sport.
You wonder if Winterhager's still doing the job on Rosie. He got off the chain after quarter time. Rosie had 10 or 12 in that second quarter, and he started well this quarter. So I'm just wondering if St Kilda have put that away.
Sinclair doing the kicking in work. Going out towards the outer side, and Powell Pepper getting amongst the action, and also Connor Rosie to kill the contest. So throw in 55 around. Port Adelaide going to the southern end, which of course, if you love your cricket, it's always the Torrens end, the river end here at the Adelaide Oval, the Cathedral end going north. Sweet taps it down. Here's McRae, he's been terrific, gives it to Sinclair, just gets a big hack kick out onto the outer wing, mark taken by Radaglia in game number 100.
Treacherous kick central though. Targeted Burgoyne, it's picked off by Higgins. Over the top on the bounce to Travalia. Back to Hill, right. Lowers the eyes, got some space, and rewards Sharman for the lead. Slide angle to the left, 40 from home, and the turnover costs Port Adelaide again.
I can see what Radaglia was trying to do there, just to change the angle of the ball and open up the full face of goal for Port Adelaide, but unfortunately for him, the execution piece wasn't there, which therefore generated actually a 3v2 on this side of the ground for St Kilda.
2 goals last week for Cooper Sharman after he fractured his thumb in the pre-season game against Port. Settling in up forward, he swings the kick from the right, doesn't curl enough, and it's through for a minus score on the right-hand side. St Kilda back up by 29, 10-7, 67 plays 5-8-38, 5 played third term.
Kane Farrell on his trusty left finds Radaglia. Good strong mark. He's got the head all patched up now too. He's at half back. Goes down the line in front of the commentary box. Cutting across. Oh, that's a good mark by Caminiti. He's been terrific coming into this game. He's had 19 intercept possessions and he's continued his terrific work again in defence. Chips the ball out to Webster. He's on the half-back flank. Fires the ball up to half forward. Burgoyne couldn't intercept. McRae takes it. He wants the mark. The umpire won't give it. Little kick over the top. Cleared sin. It's given out to Winhager on his left, and his kick just chopped off there by Aliir. 15 out from the Saints goal.
Right back pocket. Aliir looks for an exit. St Kilda floods towards the broadcast wing, and Aliir will send it that way. They converge on the drop. Good body work from Caminiti, who plays on immediately. Jams the kick forward. Couple of bounces. Lockie Jones can't control it. Picked up by Higgins. Spun a 360. Gave it away to Sweet. He in turn jukes it back towards Windhager. The kick to the top of the goal square doesn't favour Keeler. Good body work from Aliir, and he'll chip it to Bergman.
He's been handy, Aliir Brokes there.
He has, and when he uses his body like that, he's been brilliant. But St Kilda are looking very dangerous here. They tidy up some of their forward 50s. They would be kicking easy goals. They just need to tidy up a little bit, and they got Port Adelaide on toast here.
Kick by Burgoyne goes along the grandstand side here, and it's punched out by Caminiti. So we'll see the ball thrown in right here next to the interchange gates.
Josh Money downstairs.
Yeah, Aaron Port's pulled the trigger on its sub, so Logan Evans comes out of the game. Looks to be tactical. Joe Berry is in.
Boy from Benalla.
Don't mind that bit of speed. We saw Joe Berry last week. Links up very well.
Boundary throwing free kick against Zach Butters. Tackled by McRae. Former Bulldog. It's another touch. Jack McRae heads up to left half forward. Bergman front position, edged out of the drop. Ball hits the deck. Tumbling towards centre half forward for the Saints. Richards picks it up. Gave it straight to Higgins. Whistle coming back. It is holding the ball as Higgins was wrapped up. So Moraes gets the free kick and will head towards the Wanganeen stand to Pal Pepper. Awkward bounce for him and he turns into trouble. Quick tackle. Did well to get a handball back to Aaliyah. The hop skip and towards the corridor he goes to Richards.
He has it inside the centre square. Richards outer wing, chips it up towards Moraes. He goes inboard. Good vision to Farrell. He's about 70 out on his left. That is a brilliant kick. He finds Ollie Lord all on his own. Outstanding vision by Kane Farrell.
That was a brilliant build-up by Port Adelaide there, which started with Pau Pepper on the half-back line. He was lucky to get out of that tackle, but after that, Port Adelaide able to change the angle of the ball through the middle, and we know what Farrell can do by foot.
He signed that new deal, Farrell. Keep him here at Port for the next 5 years. And he's found Lord, of course, playing his first game for the year. Kicked a goal in the second term. This one from about 30 out, tight angle, and he's missed. Just kept it a little skinny.
Brogues, you would have been happy with that build-up. Kick through the middle.
Absolutely, and gets into the hands of Moraes. He's an impressive young kid, isn't he? He makes good decisions. He moves the ball on very quickly. He looks good.
His 27 last week is the most by a Port player in their first 2 games, so it's good signs. Speaking of, Wilkie looks for an exit and picked off by Bergman, another youngster for the Power. He's at centre wing on the broadcast wing. Towards the 50, big ride from Caminiti, stuck the knee and got high, couldn't claim it. Knocked down to Pal Pepper, hands it to Georgiades, missed him and Rioli had too much speed over around the footy. Zach Jones tries to get through a couple and runs out of room. Too casual from the veteran, and it's a free kick to Port Adelaide, and Sam Pal Pepper tied in the pocket, 20 from home.
Trying to impose himself, isn't he, Pep? He started the quarter very well. He's just trying to do all the stuff to lift his team. I really like his attitude.
Wasn't today really a tackle either. He kind of slipped over the head of Jones. If anything, it could have been high. Instead, Pal Pepper gets the free kick, opens the angle and snaps into the Riverbank stand. Pal Pepper's got his first. Relief for Port Adelaide as the margin drops down to 22. 6-9-45, plays 10-7-67. 10 played third term, Sunday footy on ABC Sport. Your experts Dean Brogan and Scott Thompson.
He's one of those players, Pau Pepper, that can certainly inspire his teammates with his pressure on the ball. We mentioned him just a moment ago on the half-back line, strong in the contest, which generated their forward offence for their last look on goal. And just there inside forward 50, pressure on the ball. Maybe a little bit lucky to win the free kick, but even so, through work rate and pressure, generates a shot on goal.
Gross 300 gamer, Scotty Thompson and Port Premiership Ruckman. Dean Brogan are your experts today, and that work there by Sam Pal Pepper, very, very important just to keep them in touch after Owens opened up the scoring with a goal of the Saints in the first minute of this third term. Sweet knocks it out, comes straight to Jones, though he did well, draws in the little handball there to Wilson. His kick goes into the attacking 50. Oh, Wood did really, really well. Tried to flick a little handball out going past. And Port Adelaide have been able to draw a free kick here to Miles Bergman in the defensive 50. That was a let-off.
Bergman wants to go central. Up the spine, Horn Francis presents. It hit him, but he put down the mark. It's very little pressure as well. St Kilda pounce, a tumbling kick. Lockie Jones picks it up. Tackled by Travalia, but got it away to Drew. And a loop-in kick. Well flighted to Joe Richards. He's at right half-back for Port Adelaide.
I wouldn't say Horn Francis had a little look over his shoulder, but it certainly looked like that. You don't see him fumble those uncontested marks, so to speak.
Maybe just a little bit casual in that last contest.
Outward 45 to Berry, the sub, and now to the defensive edge to Bergman. They're chipping it around Port, getting up those kicking numbers after Dean Brogan sledged them at half-time for their handball-happy movement. Burgoyne to the outer side. Kick was a little treacherous, but Sin made it work. Outnumbered 2-1, takes the mark and spears it down the line of Rioli. Just behind left half forward in front of the Williams stand. Rioli on the 45 to the boundary line.
Well, much better build-up. They're shifting the ball. They're keeping the ball off St Kilda and they're making them defend.
Rays marks and opens the angle. Drives it towards the pocket. Georgiades with a huge sit. both feet in the back. He stood up in the air but couldn't take the mark over the top of Caminiti. That would have been spectacular. Just couldn't cap it off. We'll get a boundary throw in the left forward pocket.
Car was almost his, wasn't it?
Geez, you wrap both the hands around Caminiti as well. When the umpire gave him the benefit of the doubt as the ball straight in. Alir has it at half forward, picked up by Jones, gives it to Burgoyne, goes through his hands, wants some support. Good handball to Drew. A nice 20-metre handball. He goes forward. Couple of bites, couldn't take it. And the ball comes forward. It was Lord that couldn't finish it. And the Saints 2-on-1 here. There's some speed coming at it now. But pressure right there on Collard came from Drew, and they were able to knock the ball out right between the interchange gates.
Really well done by Collard then, but they're the ones that make you nervous. You don't know what the umpire's going to call with that little tap down the line when it rolls out of bounds like that.
Well, to Scott Thompson alongside Dean Brogan on ABC Sport this afternoon. Saints by 22. Sweet down Hon Francis, clothesline. Crowd felt it was too high. Umpire didn't think so. We'll get a ball up close to the logo.
Geez, when he flies through the stoppages like that, so every now and then he's going to run straight into a brick wall, isn't he?
Tossed up. Sweet and Marshall really wrestling to get the tap down. Neither really got a clean touch, and Zach Jones is wrapped up quickly. Another ball up to come, edging closer towards the 50. Sweet down, another whistle. Non-controlling umpires saw an arm over the shoulder.
Against Hon Francis, tried to get rid of Windenhager, pushed him in the face.
So Windhager takes it to Hill, and now McRae through the broadcast swing. Diving tackle from Rosie. Got the kick away. Rising Lockie Jones. Flew, couldn't take it. Spills down Hall. Tries to break through Drew. Couldn't get past the ball. Free kick going the way of Port Adelaide, and some concerns for Connor Rosie on that diving tackle against Jack McRae. Can you see him down there, Josh Money?
I can. I think it was a boot in the face from Jack McRae in that brave tackle, so he'll be looked at right away.
Now the skipper comes off the ground. The ball spun around. Keeler couldn't get a handball. He just got some sort of contact with it. Burns under pressure. And here's Bergman again. He's having a purple patch cut across and took the mark at half back. Just here on the broadcast side. Port Adelaide really need to get a move on. 22 points now. Bergman goes up to half forward. Going back with the flight, trying to take the mark was Wilkie. Kick around the corner came from Berry. He's looking for Georgiades. The Saints in defence, all right. Little kick to Caminiti, didn't quite have enough on it. Here's a chance now for Stocker. He delivers it again, and Keeler close to the line. Just decides to take a step out.
I thought he was going to play it, so the
Port crowd didn't like it.
The other umpire's overruled him.
He's overruled him.
Oh.
Yeah, I have to agree. He made no attempt to keep it in.
I just don't know about that, Dean.
The men in green needed a win after yesterday in South
They haven't had a
Australia.
good weekend, have they?
Free kick, Port Adelaide. Probably won't help the Crows fans feel any better. Lord, beautiful vision. Spotted the charge out of the goal square from Georgiades and places it into the right forward pocket, 25 from home.
You feel like it's a big moment in the game, isn't it? Halfway through the third quarter, no team scoring. You feel like the next goal could go either way, and if Port kick the next one, you feel like they're going to go on a bit of a run. But alternatively, if St Kilda kick the next one, it makes it very hard for Port Adelaide.
Goal apiece in this third term so far. It's Georgiades looking to build some momentum for Port Adelaide. Starts outside the boundary line. Kicks from the tight angle. And it's oh so sweet. Mitch Georgiades. 2 for the afternoon. The crowd erupts and it's game on once again at the Adelaide Oval. Margin down to 16. St Kilda 10-7-67. Port 6-9-45. 11 played third term on ABC Sport.
Outstanding finish there by Mitch Georgiades, and he has been looking very dangerous through the first half of the game and again in this third quarter. What I am liking in an evenly poised third quarter by Port Adelaide is their offensive build-up looks a lot more damaging and dangerous than that composure piece that they're playing with by foot versus the overuse and erratic handball we were watching in the first half. So they've corrected that at half-time. They're looking a much better side at the moment.
Scott Thompson and Dean Brogan are your experts here. You can hear the Port Adelaide crowd really starting to get some feeling into things here.
Saints are missing a wingman here. We'll get the umpire warning.
Got that all sorted. So they can finally reset and get things going.
Time update as well. So 18 minutes in. Our clock just died on us for a second, but we're updated now.
Ollie Wines doing the ruck work against Keeler. Gets knocked straight down there. Couldn't be taken by Keeler. He tried to butter up on his own work. Sin with a handball out to Burgoyne. Gives it back to Sin. Crucial little fumble. Opens the door for the Saints. McRae with pressure. Able to force it. Little flick over from Sharman. And Port Adelaide wrap up the tackle. 52 out from the Saints goal. It was good work by Jones. He was able to stop Owens in his tracks.
Yeah, Sin. Horrible fumble. He's been very quiet today.
Free kick going St Kilda's way out of the stoppage. It's going to Isaac Keeler, North Adelaide product, in his third game. He's been on the list for a while as well, the Saints, finally getting a crack. Too far out to score here. But Adelaide's flooded back to the goal square and Keeler will bang it long in that direction. It's a lengthy kick. Rising up, it clears everybody. Hand came through that knocked it through for a rush behind. Isaac Keeler nearly had a monster bomb from downtown. Lead for St Kilda's 17 points. Josh Money downstairs.
Yeah, good news for Port, Aaron. Connor Rosie looks to be fine after that boot to the face, so he'll come back on shortly.
Good news for the skipper, Burgoyne, with a kick out. Goes to the broadcast wing, and the ball is just punched out of bounds ahead of Joe Berry. So he is the sub, of course, for Port Adelaide. They've activated him this term. Logan Evans has come off the ground.
If you're St Kilda, you got to keep scoring. You got to keep attacking. You can't save the game. Not that I'm saying they're doing that, but Port Adelaide are coming really hard. They need a settler.
We're into time on. The ball's knocked down to Butters. Oh, he kicks into the centre of the ground. It was intercepted by Wilson. He goes forward. Jones is in trouble. He's wrapped up in a tackle. But the umpire has plucked a free kick, and he said Jones was taken high. He's trying to get around Higgins. Gets a little kick, though, to Wines. Lucky just to get out of pressure there. Shoots a handball off.
Butters up the spine, looking for Mead. Knocked away, but Richards was front and square. Back to Wines. Now to the eastern wing to Bergman. Couple of bites. Bit of time to compose himself. Back to Richards. Breaks away from Collard. Wanganeen Miller are tracking him. Port Adelaide a little too fancy right now. Bergman finally bangs it long. Was a hit and hope. That's cut off. Callum Wilkie. Have it across the half back line for the Saints. Currently leading by 17 points.
Butters is trying his heart out, but you can just tell he's missed a bit of footy, haven't you? His disposal's not great. He's turned the ball over a couple of times, running at full speed. His decision-making's not quite there.
Wilkie had to be perfect to Owens, who marks it bang on the boundary line in front of the Bashir stand. Mark paid. St Kilda continue to move it forward. Owens up to right half forward. Sharman with the rise. Tried to knock it towards Collard. Radaglia cuts it off and is brought to ground. Saints by 17. We're underway at Perth Stadium as well. The Bulldogs lead the Dockers 2-1. You can hear it on the ABC Listen app through the AFL Extra button.
Tap down from Sweet was good. They got the chance to get moving quickly. Wines' kick, though, cut off by Wilkie on the outer wing. Geez, terrific player, Wilkie. Burns, so he's actually retreated and kicked back into the defensive 50 to try and open things up. Burns comes right across the ground to Caminiti. So he's on the half-back line, broadcast side. And we're 22 into this third term. 17-point buffer the Saints hold. Caminiti goes to half-forward. Collard was the target. And then it just bounced off the chest into Bergman's arms, and he's able to hold it after a couple of bites.
Yeah, both teams just can't get past their half-forward line at the moment. It's a game between the arcs at the moment. So it's going to have to get some adjustments on how they get the ball inside their 50.
Bergman up the broadcast wing to a contest, and Joe Berry catches one high. Free kick, Port Adelaide. Kick away from a score. Berry points long, opens the angle, and launches it into the 50. They converge, 20 from home, and somehow amongst the plethora of bodies Marshall's taken a mark. It was because he pushed out Ollie Lord. Free kick, Port Adelaide, slight angle to the right, 20 from home.
Yeah, it was there. Pushed him right in the back. This is a huge kick. This gets it, to 11 points. And Port Adelaide have all the play. St Kilda look like they've stopped.
Or argy-bargy behind play. This time it's Wanganeen Miller and Mitch Georgiades in a jumper tug. No one wants to let go. Ollie Lord's got the set shot, so Mitch has to be careful here. The scuffle continues. Lord trots in from 40, straight and accurate. Lord on the board, he's got 2. And Port Adelaide reduced the margin down to 11. 10-8, 68 to the Powers, 8-9, 57. Time on in the third term on ABC Sport. Josh Money downstairs.
Yeah, Aaron, not a happy homecoming for local boy Isaac Keeler. He's been subbed out for the Saints after just the 3 disposals. Angus Hasty comes into the game.
Josh Money down the boundary here for ABC Sport. And when Mitch Owens kicked the goal in the opening minute of this third term, the Saints were out by 29 points. Then Port have gone bang, bang, bang through Palpeva, Georgiades and Lord, and suddenly they are within 2 straight kicks.
St Kilda look like they've lost their run a bit. They're not changing angles with the footy like they were in the first half. They're going back long down the line. They're not winning their one-on-ones at the moment, where Port Adelaide have clearly come out to shift the ball and change that handball to kick ratio.
Well, the umpire's bounce goes right outside the circle, so he'll have another crack, take 2. Throw it up, Sweet v Marshall. They both go. Sweet knocks it down. Horne-Francis goes through with pace with Windhager right onto him. But a free kick is going to go the way of the Saints against Big Sweet. And it's going to be Stocker, who's back in the side after he recovered from concussion. He goes forward. Burgoyne goes over the top of him. Into attack for the Saints. Aliir has it, and he's wrapped up by a pair of the St Kilda boys, and Max Hall will make sure he can't get out of that whatsoever. So reset, 40 out from the Saints goal in front of the scoreboard.
Tossed into the air, Sweet battling with Sharman, knocked down, handball thrust forward from Windhager. Port had a wall waiting. Bergman gets it off to Sin, heads to the broadcast wing. Georgiades takes the mark across from Caminiti. Far from home, he'll hand it to Sin, who kept running. It was a little fumble that allowed Collard to close. He broke away from him. Sin drives it to Lord. Knocked down to Richards. Tried to sidestep traffic. Eventually gets it to Burns. Lord tried to centre it. Kick smothered. Desperation from the Saints. Angus Hasty forces the turnover to Burns. And they'll get the exit to Stocker in the right back pocket. St Kilda by 11. Port Adelaide closing the margin as we turn towards three-quarter time.
They're looking for three-quarter time, aren't they, St Kilda? They've really stopped.
Good mark by Sharman. Contested grab against Sweet on the outer wing. Just having a look to see what he's got. Everything is pretty stagnant ahead of him. So he just opts to go straight down the line to half forward. Aliir positions himself. Horne-Francis as well. The ball is sent back for the Saints. Travalia goes up to half forward. A little handball over the top. Here's a chance now. Higgins around the corner. He gets it for the Saints. He's got 3, the little man. That takes him to 12 for the season. And St Kilda get that just as we edge towards three-quarter time. Much needed. Port Adelaide 8-9, 57. St Kilda 11-8, 74, 17 points.
Well, that was against the grain, wasn't it, Tomo? Port Adelaide have just been all over them, and just a real opportunist goal. They win a contest and get out the back, and there's Higgins again getting goal side. But Aliir had to know that he was a left footer. He just played him. He got sold on his left foot, and wow, St Kilda needed that badly.
Yeah, it was. It was a really slow build-up too. It was stagnated forward of the ball. There wasn't much movement by St Kilda, and all they really did there was win contest, and a really crafty forward goal by Higgins.
Thoughts of Dean Brogan and Scott Thompson on ABC Sport. St Kilda back up by 17 points. Over at Perth Stadium, the Dogs by 6 over the Dockers, 3-2. In the middle, Sweet down to Butters. Horne-Francis darting and weaving. Arches the back away from McRae. Chips the kick up to half forward. Finds his skipper. Rosie had Butters as an option instead. Flares it into the pocket. Berry couldn't take the mark against Wanganeen Mirror. and then raced over the boundary line means that St Kilda can get the exit. Kick wasn't placed well to Windhager. McRae the other way couldn't gather. Drew's kick errant as well. Hasty cuts it off for the Saints. His handball misses the target. Horne-Francis caught high. Free kick to Port Adelaide. It's just bouncing between these two sides. And whoever's cleaner in the end is the one who wins out. Horne-Francis at right half forward. There's still time for a score for Port. Down 17. Horne-Francis casually sets it up. 25 from home. Big fist coming through from Sharman. Only finds Wines. Tackled as he tried to dribble it through. And misses for a minor score. Saints lead down to 16 on ABC Sport.
It was great build-up, but Rosie's kick, he just needed to hit the top of the square. He turned really wide to Berry, and even if Berry marked it, he was 40 out on an angle. Deep late in quarters, you've got to hit the top of the square and give your forwards your best chance. You've got Mitch Georgiadis on fire down there. Just get the ball to him.
It's great desperation by Cal Wilkie. Drew that against Wines. The ball comes out from the Saints out to the outer wing, and it's just forced out of bounds. Into the last minute here of this third term. Saints have done okay. 16 points. They've held on. They got an onslaught from Port. That Higgins goal has given them a little bit of breathing space. Port has still got a chance if they're good enough. Sin goes forward, drops the ball into Georgiades. Didn't have enough on it. Wilkie hacks it out, and it's fortuitous. It lands into the hands of Windhager.
Windhager points long. Drives it up the eastern wing. One-on-one Radaglia and Owens. Off hands it rolls over the line in front of the Bashir stand. On the text line 0437 774 774. One of our listeners says Port Adelaide needs some honey and jam on their toast. Very disappointed with their game. Dark clouds in. Port fans a little anxious at 1 and 2. St Kilda with a 16-point lead tossed in. Busting through Sinclair, left it behind. Rosie picks it up. And the clock will run down as we turn for home at the Adelaide Oval. St Kilda up 16 points, 8-10-58 to the 11-8-74, I should say, to Port Adelaide's 8-10-58. Goal scorers, St Kilda with 3 to Jack Higgins, 2 to Mitch Owens, and singles to Travalia, Wangadeen, Miller, Wilson, Wood, Hall and Sharman. For the Power, a career-high 3 for Horne-Francis, 2 to Georgiades and Lord, and 1 to Sam Powell-Pepper. Could be a grandstand finish coming your way as we close in on the conclusion of round 4. Dean Brogan and Scott Thompson to wrap it up for us all in a moment. Great to have you with us for the call on local radio, Sport Digital and the ABC Listen app. This is Sunday Footy on ABC Sport.
Get ABC AFL Daily Podcast with Premiership coach Paul Roos. Alongside Corbin Middlemass, Ben Cameron and Poppy Penny. ABC AFL Daily Podcast. It's your daily footy conversation. Find it on the ABC Listen app. This is the 2025 AFL Premiership season on ABC Sport.
Little kick around the corner, going to the top of the square. The mark couldn't be taken. Alir did well. And it was Sharman's kick, but the umpire has found a free kick. And it's going to go against Alir. So the Saints will have an opportunity here. Mitch Owens. Owens got the Saints' first one, and he's got their first one after half-time as well. That was a terrific kick around the corner.
Powell-Pepper hands it to Georgiades. Missed him, and Rioli had too much speed over around the footy. Zach Jones tries to get through a couple and runs out of room. Too casual from the veteran. Powell-Pepper gets the free kick, opens the angle and snaps into the Riverbank stand. Powell-Pepper's got his first. Free kick, Port Adelaide. Lord, beautiful vision. Spotted the charge out of the goal square from Georgiades. Mitch Georgiades starts outside the boundary line. Kicks from the tight angle. And it's oh so sweet. Mitch Georgiades.
Travalia goes up the half forward. A little handball over the top. Here's a chance now. Higgins around the corner. He gets it for the Saints. He's got through the little man.
This is ABC Sports coverage of the AFL.
On your radio.
ABC Sport Digital.
And on the ABC Listen app.
St Kilda hungry to start their stint in Adelaide. They'll be here across the next week before they face the Giants in Norwood at part of Gather-Round and Port Adelaide. They do not want to play the Hawks at 1-3. They're closing the gap after a disappointing start, Port Adelaide. It's just 16 points now, St Kilda's lead, as we turn for home on ABC Sport. The Saints 11-8-74 to the Powers, 8-10-58. Both subs have been activated, both of them tactical, so Evans and Keeler out, and Joe Berry and Hasty in. Aaron Bryans and Mark Soderstrom calling the action to break it all down and preview the final term. Dean Brogan and Scott Thompson.
Yeah, big final quarter coming up from both sides, stating the obvious there. And I think St Kilda, they still need to attack. They can't go into defensive mode. I think if they kick 2 to 3 goals this quarter, they win the game, Brogues.
Yeah, 100%, Tomo. And like you said, they still need to win the game, and they just went away from that fast attacking brand of football. And it'll be interesting if they go back to it start of this quarter.
Yeah, I totally agree. We did see, though, they've got the ability, because they have been so good in the contest for most of the day, they do have the ability when the fatigue starts to kick in midway through a quarter. The run does dry up a bit, but they did show us with that Higgins goal, the last goal that they kicked, they did have the ability to go from the half-back line, 2 long kicks to contest, still get it done at ground level and generate inside 50 ball, and the ability for Higgins to finish in front of goal as well.
You can feel the tension, can't you, out there, especially from both teams really. Like Port Adelaide don't want to drop this one because you play Hawthorn next week, like Aaron just said. Season defining quarter, this one. And St Kilda, like, you win this, you're 3-1, and no one would have expected that. Plus winning at Adelaide Oval, which they don't do very well or for very long, but also there's been a lot of heat on Port Adelaide's leadership, especially Essendon last week. They were in this position a little bit closer, and Essendon ran all over them. You want to see your leader stand up this quarter, Rosie, Butters, Horne-Francis.
And that's something we touched on pre-game, the fact that when Port Adelaide were tested last week against Essendon, they did crumble in that space. So let's see whether a strong review, 3 quarters of footy, bit of fatigue, whether their leaders are willing to go to that next level.
You're spot on. 3-quarter time last Thursday night, it was Port Adelaide by 6 points. They gave up 4 goals to 1. Now, they've spent a lot of time essentially forensically picking through the review, and they pointed to a couple of senior players that weren't right at the right time to help them. So this is really set up for them to atone for what happened in that game.
You would think they're going to have to kick 5 or 6 goals this quarter, so they're going to have to go. Like, they're going to have to play on and go and play, shift the ball like they were with their feet, but they're just going to have to cut the cord and absolutely go and try and overrun St Kilda, because St Kilda are probably good for 1 or 2 goals, and that'll probably be enough, you would think. But it's game on. Like, Port are in this. They just need their good players to really stand up. This is one of these games where they're like 2 wins, really. They win this and their good players play well. They go into next week with a lot of confidence.
Soda touched on it, that final term against the Bombers last week. -14 in contested possessions, -38 touches, -8 inside 50. So the areas that St Kilda got on top of Port Adelaide in the first half, which was largely effort intensity, could be the unravelling of Port Adelaide again this afternoon if they can't flip the switch. Very dark skies. It's a red ball. Usually any time after 3 is yellow, but we were 250 today. A red Sharon in use. St Kilda by 16 points over at Perth Stadium. Scores level, time on in the first. 3 goals apiece between the Dockers and the Bulldogs. We'll get you there after this game. Final term underway. Bounce tapped down by Sweet, looking for Butters. McRae first to it, wrapped up by the returning superstar.
Just trying to see where Connor Rosie is. He's starting on the bench maybe this quarter.
Tossed up, Sweet down to Wines. Handballs back towards Mead. Now Horne-Francis spots Powell Pepper on the charge. Wide in the 50. Kick tumbles its way towards him. Webster gets there first and knocks it over.
I'm not sorry, Tom. I know it's a long quarter, but geez, you want your captain starting at the start of the quarter, I would have thought.
Josh Money downstairs.
Yeah, Brogan is spot on. Connor Rosie starting on the bench.
Daylight savings running out. It is getting dark here. Marshall and Sweet just sort of holding on to each other, and Sweet wraps himself around Marshall. We'll have things reset here. Right on the 50-metre arc. Sweet taps it down towards Butters. He misses it. Little kick off the ground. Horne-Francis first one onto it near the line. Gives it to Radigalia in front of the gates. He kicks it up into the attacking 50. Almost comes down the Wines. Hurried kick forward. It's running close to the boundary line. And cut off nicely by Sinclair, safe hands.
And beautifully read by Sinclair. Straight away at stoppage, he spat back as an extra. So he's the bloke they want ball in hand, and beautifully positioned by him.
Had a great afternoon with the 20 touches, which is wildly only half of what he got against Richmond last week with a career-high 40. And there's been a slight delay in play here, so Zach Jones received the footy. I think the ball's flat, so we're going to get a new one.
You don't see that too often, do you, these days?
You'd hope not, Dean.
But you talk about tactics. Is that a tactic Ross Lyons is to
the flat
free
ball,
up
or
the flat ball? Yeah. Didn't the New England Patriots do that?
Yeah.
Is Sinclair the one to drop back and get some drive from their half-back line?
Did give Port some time to set up, and Jones's long kick down the line is cut off by Aaliyah. He's in front of the benches, down 16. Aaliyah launches a long ball into the 50 and floating across. Caminiti got away from Georgiades and takes the intercept mark.
Been a good battle between those two, hasn't it? Caminiti's and Georgiades.
Had a good year, Caminiti, just with all his intercept possessions. Well, this kick coming back with a high ball towards the line. Radaglia couldn't take the mark. Jones feeds a handball back 15 metres to Aaliyah. He gives it to Bergman. He goes back into the centre of the ground. Quick little handball to Butters, came from Farrell. Butters is off. He's got McRae chasing him. Gives it to Burgoyne. They go right across the ground through the centre, and his kick is okay. Port have a chance now. Oh, in all sorts of trouble. It looked like Berry, and he was taken down by Wood. And the kick then came from Drew, and it's out of bounds. Port Adelaide have coughed that up, and St Kilda now get a little reprieve.
Hill down the line from McRae, was a little wide, tried to slap it on. Berry was waiting at the back. Dinks it towards the corridor. Butters can juke it out towards Burgoyne. Fumbled, he just panicked. He saw Collard coming, gave it away, and he's so lucky he's been caught high. St Kilda were out.
He had a look. Good call, Aaron. He definitely had a look, young Burgoyne. You've got to take that with two hands and embrace the contact.
The broadcast when he goes to Bergman. Kick just casual. Laconic down the line. Bounce to nobody. Jones looked to move it to the benches. And a fumble by Wilson. It's actually landed on his boot and over. So free kick to Port again. They've got 2 get-out-of-jail-free cards here. Bergman wants to go long towards half forward. They're down 17. Rising Georgiades. 16 the margin, I should say. Georgiades at half forward. Wheels around. Horn Francis is in the goal score again. Tried to rise early. Fisk comes through and knocks it through for a minor score. St Kilda's lead 15 points. Early stages of the final term.
Both teams started pretty scrappy, to say the least, but Port Adelaide had a chance there. Horn Francis, one of the goal squares, always dangerous, just couldn't get it to him.
Burns with the kick out, looking in the direction of Sharman at half back, and it's fisted towards the boundary line, so it'll be thrown in. 65 around from the Port Adelaide goal. They're going to the scoreboard end. 5 minutes gone, 15 points right now. Saints did all the hard work early. They kicked 6-2 to lead by 24 points at quarter time. Ball's thrown in, comes out to Butters, and it's a great kick. Georgiades on the lead. Beautiful delivery by Butters, and Georgiades will have a crack here from around about 45, tight angle.
That's a wonderful kick by Butters on his non-preferred, and what made it good was the fact he was willing to lower his eyes, knowing that Sinclair from St Kilda had pushed back and generated a +1 for St Kilda deeper inside Port's forward 50.
Georgiades has kicked 2-1 today, and he's had a couple out in the full, and he's jumped on heads. He's done just about everything. He's scared St Kilda at times, but he needs a nice straight kick here to put the pressure on, and he just pulls it right across the goal front through for or behind. So 14 points. The break now, Saints 11-8, 74. Port 8-12, 60, 5.5 gone.
Josh Money on the boundary.
Yeah, Aaron, Mitch Owens has just had a cut above his right eye patched up, so he, like Cassava, has the headband for the remainder of this game.
Sinclair's clear and kick as far as Sweet, who cops a push, no 50, but he's paid the mark in front of the Odie stand, right half forward. Steps inboard. Long kick in the direction of the scoreboard pocket. Wilkie in front, couldn't take it. Sinclair nudged as he looks for an exit. Burgoyne outnumbered, back with the flight, Lord. Drops down, looks to paddle it towards the centre square. Picked up by Butters. Clean in a phone box. Back towards Aaliyah, and on Francis on the charge. Slides in with a slips catch.
I tell you what, Zach Butters, he does not want to lose this game. And gee, God, they've missed him. He is just willing himself. He's missed 6 weeks of footy, and he looks like the best player, most fittest player on the ground at the moment.
He's not a big man, but gee, he's a competitive beast, isn't he? Probably overused it a couple of times through the middle of the ground at the start of this quarter, but his last couple of touches have been unbelievable.
And on the mark, 45 out. Tight angle to the right for Jason Horne-Francis, who starts across the paint at right half forward. Leans back just inside the arc. Plenty of height, not enough distance. Sits up on the goal square. Berry with the gather. Brushes off two. Handball to no one. Up and down. Saints converge. Hasty through to Webster. Bowled over by Pal Pepper. Berry with the tackle. Diving in Marshall. Wines looks to bulldoze through. Goes to ground. Piled on top of. Ball comes out very late as the umpire was about to call ball up. Pal Pepper wrapped up. Lost control of the footy holding the ball. And a free kick to Nasiah Wanganeen Millera in defensive 50 for the Saints, who are leading by 14 points.
Inside 50 count, 48-37 in favour of Port Adelaide. They've had the ball a lot in this final term to start things in their half of the ground, Brogues.
You guys all right with your microphones? Well, we're feeling the pressure up here, no doubt. St Kilda away. Look, St Kilda need to score. There they go on turnover again.
Mark's taken by Big Rowan Marshall on the 50. So they're able to run the ball quickly down there. Port Adelaide's had the ball in their half for much of the term, and the Saints go quickly. So here's a chance for Marshall. 14 points is the break at the moment. And this is a big, big kick, Scotty Thompson.
It certainly is, Sodas. You've lost me for a minute there. I'm rattled now, mate. I'm rattled. I kept trying to talk over you a moment ago.
Well, let's see how Rowan Marshall goes with things here. 55 out. The big ruckman sets sail with a high ball that goes across the face. And it's knocked through for a behind. So the Saints take things out by 15 points. And we are 8 gone in this last term. Port Adelaide, 8-12-60. St Kilda, 11-9-75.
Sin from the defensive goal square. Rocket towards the logo on centre wing. Knocked down by Lockie Jones. Richards extracts it. Out wide to Moraes, and the kick, just the wrong trajectory. On the right, I think he was trying to go down the line and just swung it towards the benches. It's out on the full in front of Josh Money.
Yeah, Aaron, Connor Rosie finally back into the game. 8 minutes to start this crucial quarter. Seems strange.
Burns with the free kick for the Saints. Back where it came from, right half forward. Throw a blanket over them, out the back door. Picked up by Bergman to Lockie Jones, and Port Adelaide move it to half-back. Up the spine goes Mead. Pal Pepper has the overlap. Visioned out wide. Didn't use Berry because all alone in the 50 is Ollie Lord. Places it for the chest mark. He sat and waited and received the gift. 25 from home.
Well, it was a great kick by Lockie Jones, and he's been okay today, Lockie Jones. Done some really good things, but also done some pull your hair out things as well. But the centering kick to Mead, and then Mead found Pepper in the middle of the ground by himself. It was brilliant ball movement, and found Lord running back to goal because St Kilda backs were high. This is a huge kick.
2 on return already for Ollie Lord. Comes in, short approach, stabs it high, and it's through for his third. They roar at the Adelaide Oval because Port Adelaide aren't done yet. 12 to play, margins down to 9. Single digits for the first time since the 17-minute mark of the opening term. Port 9-12-66, St Kilda 11-9-75. Sunday footy on ABC Sport. Dean Brogan and Scott Thompson, your experts.
You bang on, Brogues, about that kick from Lockie Jones off the half-back line. That risk-be reward for him to pull the trigger and go inside there and just open up full face to goal where they've got the ability to still go lateral if they need, but then have Ollie Lord out the back. I thought that Pal Pepper may have just hung that ball in the air a little bit too long, but it did get there, and the challenge now falls back to St Kilda and see if they want to embrace this arm wrestle.
First game of the season, Lord's got 3. Pal Pepper's Been up forward. Horn Francis has 3. Georgiades has 2. Sweet smacks it down. Mead goes off the deck. Richards with a tackle. There's Stocker working hard. He's taken out by Richards. The umpires put the whistle away for a moment, and you reckon he's going to pay a free kick? He will. He just held on to it for so long. You knew that the free kick was coming, and it's going to go the Saints' way to Burns.
Ryan Burns to the eastern side. Outer wing, Brad Hill. Spears it down the line, a dart towards Wilson. Just wide of the logo. Comfortable ball movement for the Saints right now. Lead is only 9 points. Towards the 50 he goes. Caught behind Wood. Stuck a knees at the back of Jones. Cleared both. Aliir on the bounce. Hands it to Mead. Weaving away from Chevalier. Tries to clear to Moraes, but it's out on the full. Free kick, St Kilda left half forward.
If you're St Kilda, where's Wangan and Malira's only had 3 possessions since half time. McRae's gone quiet. Windenhager's gone quiet. Their senior players need to stand up if they're to win this game today.
The Saints, Burns puts the ball into the attacking 50. Big contest. Radagalia, Owens all in there, and it gets crunched out of bounds.
Quarter time at Perth Stadium. Was a masterclass in goal kicking until the final minute. Fremantle 4-2-26 lead the Dockers 4 straight 24. I think the first 7 goals were without a blemish and got a couple late. Close game though, you can hear it on the ABC Listen app.
12 minutes gone, 9 points in favour of the Saints. They're in their attacking forward. Sharman knocks it down, then there's a kick off the deck, but it's just through 4 behind. McRae couldn't get a goal, so the lead now is 10 points.
You feel for St Kilda, they're going to have to kick a goal really soon just to take that pressure off, because if Port keep coming, the pressure's going to mount.
Farrell to right half back, looked for Radagalia, knocked away by Sharman, boundary throw in. On the text line, Richard in Geelong says, judging from the call, is it fair to say that neither of these teams will be worrying anyone in September? Sounds scrappy and undisciplined. I think if the Saints play the way they did in the first half, they'd be...
Yeah, I don't know about undisciplined, but yeah, it's been a pretty good contest today.
Tossed in, knocked down towards McRae, brought down in the Rosie tackle, no whistle. Hall rolls it towards Garcia. Now Hill arcing around for the Saints into the 50 once again. Woods alone rising across from the side. Radagalia with the fist, knocked down Garcia, got it to Wilson. Hall tight, handball across the boundary line to Garcia, back to Wood, sidestep from Wilson. Got around Mead, but the smother from Berry, barging in Powell-Pepper. Handball coughed it up, straight to Hill, thrusts it forward and misses for a behind on the left-hand side. St Kilda by 11. 2-goal game at the Adelaide Oval, 10 to play.
Pressure's just gone up a little bit, Brogues. Port Adelaide now, there's still plenty of time to go, need to take the game on, but with that composure piece. They don't need to do anything silly. They don't need to rush. They just need to play their style that has slowly dragged them back into the game.
And you feel St Kilda are going to kick a goal, it's from a ground ball or a scrappy goal. Their forwards haven't been marking it, so they can get in their forward 50 and get on the ground. That's where they're going to get their goal.
Scott Thompson and Dean Brogan, your experts, as Connor Rosie goes for a kick deep in defence. A handball comes from Mead. Oh, that was clever play. Terrific play. To Berry, goes over the top. It was Horn Francis who was outstanding. It goes up to half forward, almost sort of rushed into that direction. Wilkie on hands and knees. Saints working hard. Terrific tackle. Port one holding the ball. Here we go. Willie Rioli. Oh!
What a smother.
That was terrific work. Really Rioli, but the kick has only gone as far for Port Adelaide for the mark to be taken by... Who have we got out there? We're a long way back. It's Mead. And the mark's now taken by Georgiades. His little kick is terrific, and he's in front of the scoreboard.
It was brilliant patience by Mead. I was sort of thinking he's got to get it top of the square, get it in, but he actually was patient, and he waited for Mitch to run around and lose his man and get into this space, and brilliant kick. Will he kick it, Tomo?
Let's back him in, Brogues, but I want to go back to just Sam Powell-Pepper. He wasn't involved directly in that play, but his last 5 minutes, he's a battering ram. He is just an inspirational leader as far as setting the tone in the contest.
Mitch Georgiades missed, well, a couple he should normally get, and he's kicked a couple of really tough ones. This one from 30 out, tight angle. You can hear the crowd, they love it here at Port Adelaide, right in front of the scoreboard. Mitch Georgiades has got 3. He has been terrific. Port Francis got 3. Lord has got 3. Port Adelaide are within 5 points.
Well, you're 100% right, Tomo. The leaders are standing up, especially Powell Pepper and Butters. And Hall Francis, throw him in there as well. They are willing themselves back from what seems from the dead, really, from their first quarter. They've been dominant, and they can sense that St Kilda have stopped here, and the leaders are getting it done for Port Adelaide.
Yeah, they certainly are. And you touched on the fact that Mead showed great composure going inside forward 50, and that's what we touched on just a moment ago. Given there's plenty of time left on the clock, Port Adelaide now have the momentum. So can they maximise, but can they still lead up their play with that composure piece that goes with it?
Thoughts of Scott Thompson and Dean Brogan on ABC Sport. St Kilda by 5 points after leading since the 6-minute mark of the opening term. Bounce into the air. Owens in the ruck against Wines, wins out. On hands and knees, scratching and clawing. Horn Francis gathers and links up with Wines. Shoveling handball forward. Butters with a little chip. Little long for Mead. And hasty backtracking cuts it off for the Saints in defensive 50.
Just a little bit too cute by Butters there.
Even Hall Francis, he just hit the top of the square.
Dinks it wide to Sinclair, called to play on, so he hacks it down the line. Rising, Owens couldn't take the mark. Travalia set upon by Horn Francis. Umpire will circle and call for a ball up in front of the Odie stand. St Kilda by 5.
Where's it coming from, St Kilda? They can't even get it past their forward line, to be honest. They just stop. They're running backwards, not forwards, and Port Adelaide are all over them.
Port Adelaide have kicked 5 goals to 2 in this second half. Real swing in the momentum after the Saints made a blistering start to the game. 24 points up at quarter time, 23 at the half. Kick by Owens from half back. Terrific work by Bergman. Under pressure, little tunnel ball type handball to Hall. His handball though was intercepted by Bergman. He's wrapped up in a tackle by Higgins on the outer wing.
Crowd rising. They understand what this means for Port's season with Hawthorn around the corner. They're 1 and 2, the Power. Out of the stoppage, Butters around the body. Tried to snap a hit and hope up to half forward, but Wanganeen Miller was waiting. Another touch for him. Impressive display this afternoon. Low chiselling ball. Stocker gathers on the half volley back to Wanganeen Miller, and now Zach Jones hands it to Wanganeen Miller for the 3rd touch in the chain, and it won't work for him. Powell Pepper saw it coming and mowed him down. Holding the ball, Port now on the counter punch. Powell Pepper to Sin towards the 50. They're outnumbered everywhere, and Stocker takes the uncontested mark.
Just needed a little bit of composure, and they could by foot. They were piecing them apart by foot. And just a silly turnover there by Port.
Kick up into the direction at half forward for the Saints to Sharman. Jones is involved, close to the line. He got away beautifully from Collard. But the tackle is going to be paid to Collard. Jones got his way around, then got himself into all sorts of trouble. So here is a chance now for the Saints. 5 points. Collard into the pocket. River End. Alir in a good spot. Horn Francis, and it's taken out over the line. So just 20 around from the Saints goal. Right at the death here.
Great opportunity for St Kilda here. They just need to generate some movement around the contest. The last few stoppages, all mids for St Kilda has been too flat-footed. This is a licence here.
Saints by 5, tossed in. Sharman takes it out of the ruck. Wines brings him down. Ball pops out. Head over the footy, Windhager. Spun a full 7.20 by Farrell, and finally a ball up called. 25 from home. Saints 50. Tossed into the air. Wines takes it out of the ruck, and Sharman gives him the receipt with the tackle. Shot out to Butters. Good hands to Farrell, but he's kicked it out on the full. Free kick, St Kilda right half forward.
Butters has had 8 possessions this last quarter, 2 clearances, contested possessions 3, Granville gets 2. He's just dominating.
Wanganeen Miller has the footy. This will be disposal 24 for him. Had a couple of leads. It's taken an eternity and finally is called to play on. Palpepper closes. Wanganeen Miller panics. Missed the boot. Rolls his way to Sinclair, who pulls the trigger from 50 out of nowhere. Jack Sinclair gives the Saints an 11-point lead. Something from nothing. 12-11-83 to the Powers, 10-12-72, and the fans are irate with how long that play-on call came. 5 to go. It's a great finish on ABC Sport. Your experts, Dean Brogan, Scott Thompson.
That's a great example of creating something out of nothing.
Is it ever?
Wanganeen Miller gets called to play on. He tries some fancy sidestep that doesn't come off. A little cute corridor kick that hits the ground.
Come off his shin.
It almost did come off his shin, but beautiful pick up by Sinclair. And, you know, the two guys, I know Wanganeen Miller got done holding the ball before, but breaking the lines from the back half, and then we've spoken time and time again about the ball use of those two guys, including Sinclair, and to knock it over like that, again, just put St Kilda just ahead of the ball again.
Well, Sinclair coming off 40 possessions and 10 score involvements against the Tigers. But that score there, well, that was absolutely brilliant for the Saints. Got 5.5 left. They lead by 11 points. Just stopped Port Adelaide's momentum. Horne-Francis runs through the centre bounce trying to take it with him. He can't. Connor Rosie sits over the top of it, and the umpire will bounce again just a metre or so from that centre circle.
St Kilda, you're still going to put the pressure on for another couple of minutes. You can't save the game. There's still over 5 minutes to go. You still got to keep attacking.
Working forward there, just getting a little kick was McRae. Sharman has it at half forward, goes over the top. Collard, great mark. 15 out, outstanding grab by Collard. He was in a tough contest there with Sin. Probably a little shorter too, but he used the body well and acrobatically grabbed it.
Well,
great.
I just called St Kilda's leaders need to stand up. We just spoke about Wanganeen Malira, Sinclair, and now McRae gets an all-important clearance and hacks the ball forward. Their good players are standing up when they need to.
Yeah, there's nothing pretty about that ball movement forward, and then great body work.
Just his 6th game. Collard around the corner, goes with a kick, slots it through for the Saints, gives them some breathing space. They are out by 17 points. Terrific grab by the young man.
Well, what a response by St Kilda. They look gone. And the last 4 or 5 minutes, they've got to work, and their good players have stood up. This is a really put your big boy pants on St Kilda today. They're going to take some beating from here, but they've been unbelievable, and they've been tested so many times today.
Which happened numerous times, and we go back to the third quarter where Port had all the momentum and St Kilda kicked 3 goals in 4 minutes. Port here, all the momentum with the crowd noise, something out of nothing with Sinclair's last goal, and then Collard, the young lad then, but 2 goals against the flow.
Character building moment for Ross Lyons Saints. It was 5 points only 5 minutes ago, and now they lead by 17. Bounce in the middle. Sweet wins it down. Knocks it to Rosie. Tucks it under one arm. And McRae never said die. Caught him in the tackle. Late handball to Wines. Horne-Francis over the top to Palpepper. 45 from home. Weaves through a couple. Looks wide. He spots Georgiades. Back Caminiti got a fist in. Burn-Jones. Handball back to Georgiades. Breaks the ankles of Brad Hill, but kicked it straight into Caminiti. And it rolls over the boundary line. 45 out. Right forward pocket. Saints by 17.
Well, if you're St Kilda now, you can park the bus, you can put some numbers back and save the game now. It's going to be hard for Port Adelaide to kick, 3 goals in 3 minutes.
Been a good battle between Georgiades and Caminiti. They throw the ball in. Burn-Jones taken down just as he tried to get a handball in. Good work there by Bergman. He got it from Butters back to Bergman. Little 1-2 with Wines. The kick though, just looking for some space. And it was taken by Hill, and they can breathe easy again now, the Saints.
They were queuing up St Kilda, and he kicked it straight to him. Brad Hill hands it off to Wanganeen Miller. Drives it long and hard up the eastern wing. Rising Owens couldn't take it. Spills down Higgins. Shoots a handball out, a little bit hot. Sliding across, tackle laid. Garcia over the top of it, and finally called for holding the ball. Free kick to Connor Rosie. 3-goal game. 3 minutes to work with. Rosie into the 50. Horn Francis with her eyes. Couldn't get it on the second bite. Whistle for a hold. Free kick, St Kilda. Cooper Sharman's floated back. Gets the free kick in front of the scoreboard.
Well, if you St Kilda now, you can try and keep possession, take another minute or two off the clock and really soak up this next 2.5 minutes.
Kick to the outer wing. Going back to Saba. Radagalia, good mark in his 100th. Goals to Sinclair and Collard in red time have been super important for the Saints. Port need to score quickly. Oh, the kick was going to Alir, but going back, taking a beautiful grab was Wood, and he's been hit by cramp. And he's milking the clock nicely.
Absolutely milking the clock nicely now, and now is when St Kilda really can go ultra defensive with only a minute and a half, 2 minutes to go.
Saints by 17, up the eastern wing they go. Players converge on the drop and off hands. It's over the boundary line. 12 to with you for the next 12 minutes if you're listening on DAB+. You'll be headed to Sunday evenings. Everybody else will get the song, and then we'll take you to Perth Stadium between the Dockers and the Dogs, where Fremantle currently lead by 7 in the second term. Tossed into play, outer side. Marshall down, Sweet gathers, tries to barge through, gave it straight to McRae, brushes past a couple, spears the Saints towards the 50. Owens outmarks Radagalia and decides to take the set shot to milk the clock even more.
Well, hasn't McRae been enormous in the last 15 minutes? Had a quietish third quarter and start to the fourth, but he's just really showing how good he is, McRae. What a pickup he's been for St Kilda.
They're heading for the exits now. A couple of Saints fans getting stuck into the Port Faithful. We're disembarking in the Bradman stand. Mitch Owens, 2 for the day. This will test him. Tight angle on the boundary line, 55 from home. It's across the face. It'll drop 10 short. And out the back, Alir takes the mark. Looks to move it centrally. Chip pass to Farrell, top of the defensive goal screen. Knows he's got to go. Farrell up the spine, searching for Horn. Francis takes the mark against 2 Saints.
He's been good, Horn Francis. He's kicked 3. He's played in the midfield. He's played forward. Gives it to Rioli. He goes up to half forward looking for Berry. Coming through is the skipper. He takes it, runs within the 50, and the kick just pushed off it. It was a really nice chase by Wanganeen Miller and Collard, and the Saints get a reprieve with a mark taken right in the back pocket.
Sharman looks for an option. Casual kick up to right half back looking for Wilson. A couple of hands on the rise, and it's over the boundary line. So Port Adelaide have Hawthorn to conclude gather round next Sunday. St Kilda will play the Giants. Tough kind of month ahead for both clubs. So Port, Hawthorn, Sydney, North and the Dogs. The Saints go the Giants, the Dogs, the Lions and the Dockers. Tossed in. Butters out of the stoppage, shoots a handball towards Bergman, tried to spin out of trouble, left the ball behind. On hands and knees, Collard received the footy and gave it to Garcia. Moves it down the broadcast wing. Radagalia with the fist on Wood. Picked up by Sin. Thought about a handball inboard instead. Spears it up towards Bergman. Good take on the bounce. Handball in towards the logo to Wines. Releases Drew. Into the 50 for the power. Slips past Pepper. Zach Jones at the back. Gives it to Sharman. And now Wilkie. Spots McRae on short. Off a step, spins. Jams it down the line. Burgoyne will rise and knock it over the boundary line as the clock continues to tick down here at the Adelaide Oval. The Port fans who are booing their side at quarter time. The roller coaster of emotion as they clawed it back to a 1-goal game. They're going to fall short and be 1-3. St Kilda's season is well and truly alive. The Saints shine in the city of churches and they send Port Adelaide to purgatory. The Saints snap their Adelaide Oval drought, winning by 15 points. 89 the Power, 10-12-72. A 17-point victory to St Kilda in front of 34,201. Ross Lyon will be bullish about their prospects this year with so many stars to come back in, and Port Adelaide so many questions to be asked. They led ever since the 6-minute mark of the opening term. 24 was the margin at the first break, 23 at the half, 16 at three-quarter time. You can sense the trend. Got down all the way to 5 points at the 16-minute mark of the final term. St Kilda hung on, and a couple of late goals pushes it to a 17-point victory at the Adelaide Oval. Port 1-3, St Kilda 3-1. And the season is well and truly alive for them. Dean Brogan, Scott Thompson, your experts to break it all down on ABC Sport.
Well done, St Kilda. That was a spectacular win for that football club. Their first quarter was elite. Absolutely elite. And on the flip side, Port Adelaide was putrid in that first quarter. And you just can't start football games like that. The rest of the game, they were pretty good, Port Adelaide. But St Kilda, they were challenged so many times today by on paper a better side, clearly, and they just stuck fat, didn't they? And they just played tough, and they stuck to their game plan, and they came with a plan. They executed it. Yeah, at times it didn't work, and Port looked like they were going to run over the top, but they just hung in there. And for a young side, full credit to St Kilda, and that's an enormous win.
They certainly deserved to win the game, and it was pretty well, as you pretty much touched on, one in the first quarter. Like, St Kilda got the game on their terms right from the get-go. They were able to generate +1, sometimes +2 around the contest, and they walked out of there with ease. Like, for a team in Port Adelaide that comes off a loss against Essendon the way they did, in what was an ugly, scrappy game of football, not pretty to watch, and review the game the way they supposedly did as a club inside their four walls, and we hear about their crashing and bashing each other at training. They did not rock up and play as a team that looked like they have a thirst for the contest. So not only did St Kilda win the ball at the source, they then had the ability to change and shift the angle and just bypass the extras that Port had behind the ball, and they just dictated terms all through that first quarter. And for the rest of the game, Port were chasing their tail, and yes, they looked okay in patches, but at the end of the day, the better side won.
Yeah, and it just puts Port in a reactive state. Like, they're reacting to everything. We've got to change this, we've got to do that, we've got to pull our A-graders out of the midfield, we've got to put other players in the midfield. Like, you're just spinning the wheels and changing it so much. You just cannot do that at this level. You can't start games like that. There is just something missing with this football club. You can't have a week like they've had and turn up like that. Like, you just can't. How does that even happen? And it's a concern. It really is. Oh,
it's a trend now. It's happened 3 of their 4 games.
They can't tell us anymore. Like, you listen to Chad Corns, and they're trying everything through the week to get this group up on a weekend. Like, from a coach's perspective, that is draining to try and get your players to a arousal level to play at this level. They weren't playing at the level in that first quarter today. And it cost them.
If round 4 into the season, you can't get in the headspace to want to compete, there's something wrong. There's alarm bells there. And when we heard before the game that they've ruled out real fierce contests and we want to crash and bash more at training, that's alarm bells straight away this early in the season. If you can't rock up with the right attitude and want to bring effort, that's telling a very big message at the moment with what's going on inside that football club.
It's staggering, to be honest with you. They're like, their midfield is as stacked as it's ever going to be. I know Butters has missed he's their best player today. He's missed 6 weeks of football. He wouldn't have trained much either with that knee injury. He's come in and absolutely blown everyone off the park. That's been up and about over the last... there's so many issues going on down there. It's frightening where they're going to end up this year. It really is.
What happens if they lose to Hawthorn next week?
Look, I can't tell you. I don't know, Aaron. I really don't.
Do they pull the trigger early?
Well, they're not going to. They're stuck to, we are not moving Kenny Long. We're not bringing Cara into the end of the year. We're going to waste this year for all these players and our supporters. It's clearly not working. If they come out and have a crack that first quarter and lose by a better side. They played like they were putrid that first quarter. You can't sugarcoat it. Like, we can't. They were good after first quarter because the coaches had to move their whole game plan around to get them to a level where they could compete against St Kilda, who should be down the bottom of the ladder. But full credit to St Kilda, they were outstanding and well coached today.
I'll say the flip side of things, the world's their oyster now, St Kilda. So like a lot of us expected them to be bottom 6. They're now 3-1. It's a tough month ahead. They've got so many big names to come back in, and suddenly it feels like they could do some real damage this year.
You gotta. It's maybe a bit of a personnel thing with Port too. They just don't have any bounce off halfback. The Dan Houston trade looks ridiculous right now, doesn't it? It's just absolutely ridiculous. Carl Amon's gone. All their prime ball movers have left the club. So they're down on personnel. We know that. Like, the tools are an issue. But Lord was good today. He was good. Just keep playing him. Look, yeah, it's Connor Rosie's a concern. He just doesn't look right, does he?
A reminder for our listeners listening on DAB+, you're about to head to Sunday evenings. If you want to keep listening to us, jump on the ABC Listen app and hit the AFL button. If you want to go to Perth Stadium, hit the AFL Extra button. We'll take most of our listeners there shortly once we get some reaction down in the rooms. St Kilda are making their way down the race now, so we will check in with Josh Money in a moment. Brogues and Tomo, who's in charge of the votes today?
Tomo.
Paper, scissors, rock? There you go. You've got a couple of minutes, Tomo, to make it work. Let's check in with Josh Money downstairs. The Saints winners by 17.
Thank you, Aaron G. What a difference a month makes. Round 1, the Saints were absolutely spanked at Adelaide Oval, which has not been a happy hunting ground for them. But they walk into these rooms well and truly up and about. 3-1 for a team that not many expected too much of. And, of course, it begins a week's stay in Adelaide where they're hoping to really consolidate their season. A few latecomers to the song as I get a little bit of spray.
Three and 1, the Saints, a 17-point victory at the Adelaide Oval, 13-11-89 to 10-12-72. 3 goals to Higgins, 2 to Owens, singles to Collard, Wanganeen, Miller, Wilson, Wood, Sinclair, Hall and Sharman. They got the Giants next week at Norwood. They'll spend the week in Adelaide, and they'll be very happy with the way their season has panned out so far with victories over Geelong, the Tigers and now the Power. If you're listening to us on DAB Plus across the country, thanks for your company. If you do want to hear Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs, jump on the ABC Listen app and hit the AFL Extra button. But for now, you're headed to Sunday evenings. And for everybody else, you're with us for the next couple of minutes before we take you to Perth Stadium. We'll get the votes from Scott Thompson in a moment's time as well. For Port Adelaide, their goal scorers, a career-high 3 for Jason Horne-Francis, 3 to Georgiades and Lord, and Powell Pepper with just the 1. Zach Butters had 30 touches on return. Jason Horne-Francis with 28 as well. Connor Rosie just the 20. Jack McRae had 28. Wanganeen Miller with 25 alongside Sinclair as well. Tomo, where'd you land?
Yeah, look, it was hard to find too many winners across the field for Port Adelaide today. I thought Butters tried his guts out. Horne-Francis really tried hard and finished with the 3 goals. Mainly got it done in the forward half in the first quarter. I thought Georgiades was really good forward of the ball and had a great battle with his St Kilda opponent in Caminiti. But the votes today, 1 vote goes to a bloke we touched on before the game. Beautiful ball user off half-back, and Wanganeen Miller gets the 1 vote. I thought Jack Sinclair generated some real good ball for him from the back half moving forward and hit the scoreboard late when it was really important, so he gets the 2 votes. And the 3 votes today goes to a guy that's been the trade of the year so far, St Kilda giving up pick 45 to land this mature age weapon at the club, who's been a very good player for a long, long time. And that goes to Jack McRae with his 28 disposals. He's had 15 contested possessions, 11 ground ball gets, 8 clearances today, and he's had 9 score involvements, so he gets the 3 votes for another very, very strong performance.
Massive pickup for St Kilda, and particularly in the absence of Jack Steele. Jack McRae's had a tremendous year. Saints winners by 17. Let's get some reaction with Josh Money downstairs.
Thanks, Aaron. They do have a lot of Jacks, the Saints, and I've got another one of their stars here in Jack Sinclair. Jack, not quite the winning goal, but it was a crucial moment in the game. What's the adrenaline like when you roost one from 50?
Yeah, feels good. I missed one from pretty close early in the game. But yeah, Naz usually hits me on the chest, but that one, right at my feet. But yeah, I thought I had enough time to sneak a look at goal and just whack it on the boot, hope for the best, and yeah, luckily it went through.
Can you believe what a difference a month makes? Round one here against the Crows wasn't pretty. You've been on an awesome run the last 3 weeks. Yeah, really proud of the response. After the second practice match against Port at Moorabbin, and then round one, sort of left wondering how we're going to go this year. Where we're at, but really proud of the response, and it's been pretty simple for us, just getting back to sort of contest and pressure really. I feel like when we defend well, we get good looks off the back of that offensively, and we've got some really good ball users obviously with Naz and stuff behind the footy, and our mids have really been electric, cleaned up some centre bounce stuff which were pretty poor out early in the year, and just their pressure's been immense, so some simple fixes, but just really proud of the response. Here's Dean Brogan and Scott Thompson.
Hey Jack, congratulations on a fantastic win, mate. It was super impressive. We feel up here the game was obviously set up in the first quarter. Was the plan to surround the stoppage? Obviously Port Adelaide's midfield is pretty strong. Was the plan to come up and surround it and make it a real contest through there and beat Port Adelaide in that area, then get the ball on the outside, and you felt like you had advantage there? Yeah, absolutely. When they sort of chain out with handball out the front of stoppage, they're incredibly efficient at scoring, so that was something we really wanted to take away from them. I think they score at nearly 1 in every 2 that they chain out, whereas I think the ones they quick kick, they're about 17% or something like that in scoring. So pretty big obviously difference there with their handball exits and their quick kicks. So we wanted to absolutely pressure them around there, get numbers around the footy. But I thought really it was just one in our contest. I thought our forwards were great at just bringing the ball to ground. Even though they were a bit undersized, but once the ball hit the deck, I thought our smalls really got to work, pressured them, and were able to play some good front half footy, especially early in the game, which is huge, and we're able to capitalise on the scoreboard, which we probably haven't really done for a while.
Jack, congratulations, mate. Great win. We've just touched on the fact that you were able to really execute around the contest, but I also thought your ability, once you exited the contest, especially early in the game when Port did have numbers behind the ball, to shift the angle of the ball and pretty much eliminate Port's +1. Was there a plan knowing that if you did send numbers to the contest, they may drop off, so your ball use going forward had to be a little bit smarter than just blazing away? Yeah, that's a plan just about every week, to be honest. Like we know a lot of teams want to defend strongly, line a ball, get numbers in line, so if you can actually change angles, bypass their spares and get looks to the open side of the ground, we know that's when we're most damaging. So it's definitely a focus most weeks, but again tonight it was.
And Jack, Aaron Bryant's here. A week in Adelaide now, which is suddenly a happy hunting ground for you. What do you get up to in the day's break before you play the Giants on Sunday? Yeah, we've got a couple of days off now. Head over to Glenelg tomorrow. Settle in over there, and pretty busy, I guess, with some a lot of community stuff, which is great. Clinics and the like, a lot of signing sessions. Enjoy the Festival of Footy. It's an amazing week. Really cool to be a part of. So we're looking forward to getting over to Glenelg with some good weather too, I think, at the back end of this week. So looking forward to it. Great to have you in town, Jack. Congratulations on the win as well. We'll see you next weekend. All right, thanks, guys. Jack Sinclair from St Kilda, winners by 17 points over Port Adelaide, 13-11-89 to 10-12-72. Big thanks to Dean Brogan, Scott Thompson, Mark Soderstrom, Andrea Williamson. Downstairs, Josh Money, and back in the studio, Craig Davis. That wraps up things here at the Adelaide Oval. We will see you on Thursday night for the start of Gather Round, but there's one more game to go in round 4. Fremantle currently hosting the Western Bulldogs at Perth Stadium. The Dockers 8-4-52 lead the Western Bulldogs, who are currently 6-3-39. Your commentary team there, Clint Wilden, Mitch Turner, Peter Bell and Shane Woden. Enjoy your night at Perth Stadium.